All right, let's dive in. The girls at school are going wild because the new transfer student is apparently a total heartthrob. The moment he walks in and gets introduced, you can practically hear every girl's heart skip a beat. The room feels hotter, and let's be real, the tension spikes. The guys, however, not so much. Let's just call it what it is, pure, unfiltered jealousy. The teacher points him to an empty seat, and one kid who looks like a failed Scooby-Doo extra is practically glowing green with envy. He gives his buddy a little signal. It's prank time. The plan is deviously simple. As the new kid walks by, stick out a foot, watch him eat dirt. And just like that, total humiliation on day one. A genius plan, right? But here's the thing. They never counted on the new guy. He sees the whole thing coming and stops dead in his tracks. Right in front of him, Lee Jae-hing thought his timing was perfect. Oops, total failure. Our protagonist just stares him down, ice cold. So Jae-hing asks, "Who do you think you're looking at?" Now you and I have to wonder, what in the world is going through this kid's head right now? Because he just stares back in complete, unnerving silence. That's when the teacher finally cuts in. "Why did you stop all of a sudden?" Ijun just smiles. He apologizes, all polite, and keeps on walking. Jae-hing thinks to himself, he got scared of me. His friend agrees, thinking, guess the new kid isn't so tough after all. But what these idiots don't know is that in the moment Ijun stopped, he was remembering some advice from the major. When you go back to Korea, Ijun, don't get involved in fights, the major knew. Ijun is a natural-born strategist. Every single one of his moves is calculated. And frankly, the major feared that part of him. When our protagonist finally sits down, the boy next to him, a kid named Park Young-chan, greets him with a quiet warning. Watch out for those guys. They're the bullies who basically run this school. You should avoid them. The next few classes go by and Ijun feels something strange. Normal boys in a normal school. Another kid talking about his favorite webtoon. It was peaceful, almost comfortable. In his memories, no moment was ever like this. And let's be real, his past wasn't exactly a walk in the park. Every memory was survival. The training was pure hell. So many years of it turned him cold. When he closes his eyes, he can still feel those days, but when he opens them again to this peace, it's wonderful. But while he was enjoying the quiet, in another classroom, a girl, Ijun's sister, didn't have that luxury. She was happy, of course. Her brother was finally home after being missing for 10 years. But a blonde girl walks up, yanking her from her thoughts. "Hey, Dune, I need your gym clothes." Dune had her own clothes, but she couldn't just give them away, or she'd have nothing. The girl just laughed, a nasty, mocking sound. Then she does something that grabs everyone's attention, a loud slap right across Dune's face. Dune wasn't allowed to ask questions or disobey. This was just her daily life. Her classmates did nothing, absolutely nothing to protect her. And she just didn't have the courage. When it was finally time to go home, she noticed her brother. He had come to her school and was waiting for her. She's a little surprised, asking if he was actually waiting for her. He says, yeah, he was hoping they could walk home together. But he also says that if she has other plans, she can just go ahead without him. Dune quickly looks around. She says she has no plans, but you and I can both tell she's totally lying. Still totally on edge walking with him. Jin just says if she's not busy, they'll walk home together, and after a moment, she reluctantly agrees. Walking down the street, the silence between them is painfully awkward. Jin decides to break the ice, asking her if she feels awkward too. Surprised, Diane quickly denies it, but Jin admits he feels pretty weird himself. And you know what? That honesty actually helps her relax just a little. Jin explains that he was only 9 years old when the accident happened. So his memory of his family, including her, is a total blur. He figures it has to be weird for her too, since she was only 7 back then. Diane says nothing, she knows he's right. But then she hears familiar voices from around the corner, and her blood runs cold. Don't blink, because this is the moment a bad day gets so much worse. It's one of the girls who was bullying her in class earlier. Turns out she's friends with that blonde girl who slapped Diane at school. The new bully spots Diane instantly and starts running her mouth. Diane panics, breaking out in a cold sweat, completely frozen. The bully points her out as the girl that Jin, the psycho blonde, hates. Then her eyes land on Jin, and she starts mocking Diane, asking if that's her boyfriend. She sneers, saying she didn't know losers could actually score a date. Mortified, Diane stammers that Jin is just her brother. That actually surprises the bully, who had no clue Diane even had a brother. After hearing all that trash, Jin calmly asks Diane if this girl is a friend. Diane quietly mumbles that they're in the same homeroom. But the bully just scoffs, calling Diane a loser again and asking since when they were friends. Diane is visibly shaking as the girl continues her verbal assault. Jin just gives the bully a stare so cold it could freeze fire. The guy sitting next to the bully does not appreciate Jin's death glare one bit. He gets angry, telling Jin to watch his eyes or he'll get hurt. Jin's stare doesn't waver, which only makes the big guy even angrier. The bully girl starts hyping him up, pushing him to go after Jin. Finally, the dude loses his temper and stomps right over to Jin. Jin immediately shoves Diane behind him, stepping up to face the guy. This idiot asks if Jin is trying to play the tough guy for his sister. Jin instantly sizes him up clueless, standing way too close, with every weak point exposed. And get this, the guy doesn't even have a weapon on him, an absolute amateur. Jin can't help but think this guy is a moron for being so wide open. But then he remembers Major Kang's warning about not fighting. I know what you're thinking, is he really gonna back down? He tries to walk away, but the big guy isn't done. He grabs Jin's collar, ready to swing. But before he can land a hit, Diane rushes between them, bowing her head. She desperately tries to explain that Jin grew up abroad and doesn't understand Korean customs. The main bully just laughs, mocking Diane for begging while she trembles in fear. The big guy just yells that he doesn't care where Jin came from. Seeing his sister shaking with fear like that is the final straw for Jin. He grabs the punk's wrist and twists. The guy immediately starts screaming in pain. Jin then drops his bag, and you and I both know exactly what that means. All right, let's watch as he calmly takes off his school jacket, telling his sister to wait. He covers her face, promising her it'll all be over in just a minute. Right on cue, the loudmouth thug charges him from behind. Jin just pivots like it's nothing and delivers one clean smack right across the guy's face. That single slap sends him flying. He sails backward, spitting blood before he smacks the ground like a sack of bricks. The bully girl and her other goon are so stunned they look like they've seen a ghost. Jin just sighs, annoyed that he already broke his promise to Major Kang. But hey, let's be real, it wasn't his fault. That loudmouth was asking for it. The other thug is so scared he looks like he's forgotten how to breathe. He's second-guessing every move. Then, the scene cuts away to the countryside. Now hold on, because we're jumping to see soldiers training like their lives depend on it. Major Kang is there, watching everything. Another soldier comes up to remind him of something. It's Jin's first day of school. Hearing that, Major Kang's expression changes to worry. Even after 6 months of teaching Jin how to live a normal life, he's still nervous. He's afraid Jin won't be able to adjust after all those years as a mercenary. Still, Kang is proud and hopes the lessons he taught will actually make a difference. Turns out those lessons went right out the window because Jin is dismantling these bullies. The other students just stare in shock at the punk he flattened on the ground. He's knocked out cold, eyes rolled into the back of his head. The main bully girl is next. She and her buddy are shaking as Jin calmly walks right up to them. In a flash, Jin lunges, hitting the other goon with a monster punch right to the gut. The guy goes flying before slamming hard onto the pavement. The girl's jaw is on the floor. I know what you're thinking. She definitely messed with the wrong guy today. His death stare alone makes her tremble. Dean pulls the jacket from her face, her hands shaking. She sees the two thugs completely knocked out, and it's only been a minute. Jin notices his sister is watching him now. He gives the bully girl one last, cold look. Then he just walks away from her, turning to his sister and apologizing for what he did. He's sorry for suddenly covering her face, but that just makes things even more awkward for Dean. So Jin tries to smooth things over, asking if she wants to get snacks from her favorite spot. Dean just mumbles that it's fine, that they don't have to, so Jin drops it. He just says they should probably head home, and just like that, the mood shifts again. The bully girl is just standing there, completely freaked out by what she just saw. She's shocked that this monster from a second ago is now acting like a gentle big brother. As they walk off, Dean gives the bully one last little wave, leaving her there paralyzed. She's left standing there, absolutely terrified. On the way home, Dean asks Jin a question. Was he the one who took out those two guys? Jin just says, yeah. This only makes her more curious, since he really doesn't look like a fighter. She then tells him that in Korea, staring at people like that is considered rude. It can cause big problems. Jin agrees, adding that where he's from, it can get you killed. Dean is confused and asks him why he did it then, why he stared at those thugs. Jin's answer is simple. He just says he saw that she was scared. Trust me, that's the moment we realize he's not just a fighter, he wants to be a protector. Dean is completely taken by surprise by his answer, and she looks down, blushing. Things get super quiet and a little awkward as they continue their walk home. When they get home, their grandpa is a total nervous wreck, already telling Jin. All right, let's check in. Grandpa says relax, but Jin insists on doing the dishes. The old man is a little lost, but he just lets Jin take over. While Jin washes, Grandpa asks if dinner was okay. Admitting he's not exactly a master chef, Jin, cool as ever, just tells him not to worry. He says the food was incredible and he's enjoyed every single meal. You can see the pure relief on the old man's face. He's absolutely beaming. Grandpa then turns to Dean, asking if she liked it, and she just nods. Changing the subject, he asks Jin about his first day back at school. Jin pauses for a second, looking a little hesitant to actually answer. Dean gets a bit tense too, remembering just how insane the day really was. But after a beat, Jin simply says it was a good day. Hearing this, Grandpa's face just completely lights up with relief and joy. Later that night, long after everyone else is asleep, Jin is wide awake. He's replaying the moment his grandpa saw him again, remembering his pure happiness. Living here with his family, even for a short time, is starting to thaw Jin's frozen heart. Now pay attention, because his thoughts drift to the plane crash. Passengers screaming in panic as oxygen masks dropped from the ceiling. But while everyone else was losing it, his parents only focused on him. It was a day of absolute terror. Just as he remembers the plane going down, Jin jolts awake, leaping out of bed, gasping for air from the nightmare. His heart is hammering in his chest, but he realizes it was just a bad dream. He glances at his clock and sees that it's already morning. As he's sitting there, he hears a noise coming from the living room. Getting up to check it out, he finds his sister making them breakfast. He asks her where their grandpa is. She says he left for work super early. Apparently, he took time off just for Jin's return, but his vacation is over. She slips on her uniform, getting ready for school, and tells Jin to eat. Breakfast is waiting on the table for him. After she's gone, Jin just stares at the spread of food she carefully laid out. Back at school, we find the main bully talking with the blonde, Jin. Turns out, Jin heard that the new transfer student is Dion's brother. The bully girl nervously confirms, yeah, it's true. She flashes back to what Jin did, remembering how he took down two of her friends. Jin asks why she looks so spooked, but the bully is just frozen in fear. You know what? I'm tired of calling her the bully girl. From now on, let's you and I just call her Chicken Shake, Jin keeps pressing her. Finally, Chicken Shake snaps out of it and says they should probably just stop messing with Dion. That cold death stare Jin gave her is still burned into her memory. But even though she's terrified, she tries to reassure herself. Hu Jin and her brother are the top dogs here. Nobody would dare mess with them. A little later, we see Dion again. And what do you know, she gets a hard smack on the head like always. She turns to see Hu Jin and Chicken shake, ready to start trouble again. So what do they want this time? Hu Jin just coldly tells her to come with them. When Dion asks where they're going, the cocky blonde immediately gets angry. To stop acting tough and just do as she's told if she wants to avoid getting hurt. She's warned that having a brother won't change a single thing. Next thing you know, we're at the school recycling dump and Dion is getting cornered. She gets absolutely pummeled by the cocky blonde, who lands a few nasty kicks. The blonde tells Dion to just stay down. Gasping for air, Dion asks why this is even happening. Why is she getting beaten up? That's when Hu Jin brings up her brother. She tells Dion to warn him to stop acting so tough and full of himself. And she makes it clear that whatever happens next is not their problem, because he's about to pay. Dion is confused. She asks if they're actually going after her brother now. Hu Jin just smirks, yep, and reminds her that the two guys Jin beat down. Yeah, they're friends with her own brother, and since Dion and Jin messed with them, there's no way they're getting away with it. You don't just poke a bear. Hearing this, Dion's face drains of all color. She screams at them, desperate to know their plan. What are they going to do to her brother? For that, she gets a hard slap right across the face. The slap leaves a bright red mark, but that sting is nothing compared to the fear she feels for her brother's safety. Dion grits her teeth, forces herself up, and just bolts out of there, leaving the two thugs standing in her dust. And here's where things get really intense. The scene shifts back to the third-year classroom. The air is thick with tension. Even the usual bullies are dead silent. Everyone is nervous. The school's #1 bully just walked in with his entire crew. It looks like things with Jin are about to explode, but Jin, he's just sitting there. Cool as a cucumber. The two punks he wrecked yesterday are there too, walking right with their boss. And behind them comes the biggest threat of all. The top dog himself. Then, as if on cue, Dion bursts into the room. She's out of breath, her face is bruised, and her uniform is completely trashed. Jin leaps from his seat, his eyes wide with disbelief at his sister's beaten-up face. The bully boss starts talking trash, making fun of how worried Jin's sister is. He complains that his own sister, Moi Jyn, is nothing but a nag. She just whines and tells him to do things for her constantly. Moi Jyn then strolls up, telling her brother she'll only feel bad for him after he gets his butt kicked for real. But Jin is just frozen, completely horrified to see his sister all bruised and battered. Before we get to see his reaction though, you and I need to see what happened earlier that day. The scene flashes back to that morning as students were arriving for class. We see poor Yang Chan looking terrified while two guys use his head for target practice. Jae Hyung is super proud of a direct hit, bragging about it to his friend. Hyujin gets annoyed and demands a nearby kid give him his eraser. The shy student hands it over and Huk Jin grabs it. He winds up and lets it fly. It nails Yang Chan right in the head. He even does a little victory dance. He brags about his perfect shot, but Jae Hyung just claims it was pure luck. The two of them start bickering, trying to one-up each other's stupid headshot game. Jae Hyung decides to take another shot, swinging his arm back like a maniac. He chucks the eraser right at Yang Chan, but surprise, Jin steps in the way. The eraser smacks him right in the side instead. The two bullies are pissed off. Their fun was interrupted, and the eraser just drops. Jin then calmly sits down. Right in his seat next to the terrified Yang Chan, the redhead is obviously getting annoyed. Totally furious, feeling like Jin is starting to get on his nerves. Hyukjin decides they have to teach Jin a lesson for interfering, and trust me, the redhead is totally on board. Meanwhile, Jin just puts his bag down and calmly asks Yang Chan if he's okay. The poor guy mumbles that he's fine, but you can see from his pale face that he is definitely not. Yang Chan just lines in close, avoiding eye contact with the bullies, and asks if Jin wants to hang out after school. But Jin says he can't, because he has to walk home with his sister. The shy kid seems a little interested and asks if his sister transferred over with him. Jin shakes his head. She was already going to school here. When Yang Chan asks for her name, Jin tells him it's Dion. And Yang Chan is completely shocked to hear that name. Jin picks up on his reaction and asks if he knows her. At first, Yang Chan hesitates, not wanting to say anything at all. But then he admits that Dion is having a really rough time at school. Pay attention here. He explains that back in middle school, she was super popular, smart, and pretty, so a lot of guys had a crush on her. But then this blonde girl, Moi Jyn, got jealous and started making her life hell. Jin asks if anyone ever tried to stop her. Yang Chan says that the bully, Moi Jyn, has a brother named Gizu Kim. And he's one of the biggest troublemakers in the entire school. And what's worse, Dion is in the exact same homeroom as Moi Jyn. She gets bullied so relentlessly that other students are shocked she even bothers to show up anymore. Jin puts it all together and realizes Moi Jyn started tormenting his sister just because some random guy liked her. But Yang Chan sadly explains that was just the excuse. Moi Jyn was just looking for a target to take her issues out on. Jin's mind flashes back. His grandpa was hoping Jin would fit in easily at his new school. Then their grandpa turned to Dion, asking if she was doing okay in her classes, too. And back then, sweet little Dion promised him that everything was absolutely perfect, never once letting on that she was suffering every single day. Their grandpa praised her, saying Dion is a fantastic student and that her teachers always say wonderful things about her. Back in the present, Jin realizes his sister was just putting on a brave face, hiding everything so their grandpa wouldn't worry. Just then, one of the bullies kicks the door wide open, and the whole crew just strolls right into the classroom like they own the place. Hyukjin immediately demands to know what they're all doing in his class. Gizu Kim, one of the top dogs, just says he's here to take care of some business. Hyukjin is totally stunned to see him and has no idea what he should do. See, Hyukjin is a small-time bully. He can push around the other guys, but he knows better than to ever mess with Gizu Kim. Meanwhile, Gizu's lackey points Jin out. The second Gizu sees him, he starts screaming at his crew, furious that they got beaten up by some scrawny-looking punk. He tells his goon to step aside, then flicks a finger at Jin, ordering him to come here. Jin stands up without a second of hesitation. The redhead and Hyukjin are completely lost, wondering what on earth Jin did to get on Gizu's bad side. They're both thinking he's absolutely done for now. But Jin just stands there and asks if Gizu is the one in charge, the real big shot. And you can see Gizu just smirk. Like it's hilarious that it took Jin this long to figure out who really runs this school. He turns to one of his lackeys and tells him to stop standing around like an idiot and do something already. You can see the pure terror on the lackey's face, but he slowly starts walking toward Jin. But before the fight can kick off, Dion bursts in completely out of breath, and you and I are about to see a big brother unleashed. Which snaps us back to the present, with Jin staring at his battered sister. Tears start rolling down Dion's face as she apologizes to Jin for getting him into all this. Meanwhile, Moi Jyn just scoffs at the tears, calling her a total drama queen. But Jin looks at his sister and tells her she did absolutely nothing wrong. Before anyone can react, he just snaps. He slaps the lackey so hard the guy collapses on the spot. Out cold, the other bullies who have seen Jin fight before immediately start shaking. With one down, Jin turns to his sister and says these guys are the ones who owe her an apology. The big guy charges at Jin with his fist cocked back and ready. But Jin just shoves his arm aside like it's a total joke. He spots an opening. A quick, brutal chop straight to the guy's throat, pure ninja-level precision. The bully starts coughing and choking before he just hits the floor. The last lackey, shaking like a leaf, tries to throw a weak punch at Jin. Jin hits him with a nasty shot to the ribs and sends him flying to the ground too. And you can see Gizu's confidence finally start to crack, watching Jin just dismantle his entire crew. His boys went down like they were absolute nobodies. The other wannabe bullies in the class just stare. Their eyes are wide, minds completely blank. Even Moi Jyn and her lackey are starting to freak out. They are totally losing their cool. After dropping the last two guys, Jin turns to Gizu. He tells him that his sister has been suffering because of these thugs for too long. And he is not going to let it slide. Now pay attention, because this is where it gets real. Gizu finally says something, smirking and admitting that Jin isn't the pushover he thought he was. Then with a grin, Gizu throws a lightning-fast kick aimed right at Jin's head. But Jin blocks it effortlessly, leaving Gizu completely stunned. He never thought Jin would be that quick, so Gizu throws another kick with his other leg. Jin blocks that one just as easily, grabs Gizu's leg, and yanks him in close. A devastating punch lands square on his face. Blood goes flying as Gizu slams into the floor. He's a total ragdoll, nose and mouth bleeding. He looks up in absolute horror. Jin is standing over him like the freaking Grim Reaper, and without a moment's hesitation. Jin kicks the bastard right in the face again, sending even more blood flying. The guy who was acting so tough just a minute ago is now on the ground. Totally defeated, humiliated, the whole class goes dead silent. I mean, let that sink in for a second. Every eye is wide with shock as they watch Jin take down one of the school's top dogs. The two beta bullies are just staring, their jaws practically on the floor. They can't believe Jin just wrecked a major player like Gizu so easily. The girls are just as shocked, especially the blonde one. She is stunned. She's wondering if Jin has really been this strong the whole time. Jin then starts walking towards Moi Jyn, who looks terrified she's about to get the same treatment. But before he can do anything, his sister Dion runs over and begs him to stop. Jin reminds her that Moi Jyn and her crew have been messing with her for a long time. He knows they came after her yesterday, too. Dion's face just falls. She realizes he knows the full truth and looks down without saying a word. Then it hits her, Jin is doing all of this just for her sake. So she forces a smile and tells him she's fine and that he should just stop now. Her brother thinks about it for a second, then finally agrees to walk her to her class. As they leave, the entire room starts whispering, unable to believe what they just witnessed. All right, let's dive right in. The school's top dog, Gizu, got taken down by just one guy. Even the lackeys have to admit Jin is the real deal, and they're relieved they didn't try to fight him earlier. While everyone's whispering, the blonde girl is just shaking. A mix of fear and total humiliation, unable to process the fact that they lost. Meanwhile, Jin and Diane are walking. And she's telling him how completely shocked she is by his fighting skills, but then she starts apologizing again. Jin looks confused, asking what she could possibly be sorry for. Diane explains it's her fault he got dragged into this whole mess. She feels terrible about the fights he was forced into both yesterday and today. Jin just gives her a warm smile, telling her never to apologize for something like that. This is what family does, they protect each other. He then explains that where he came from, it was every man for himself. Nobody gave a damn what happened to anyone else, as long as they were okay. But even those selfish people were different when it came to their own family. And pay attention. Because we're about to see a flashback to a brutal battlefield, filled with smoke and explosions everywhere. You can hear gunfire and bombs going off all around. In the middle of all this chaos, we see a younger Jin. He spots an enemy soldier, desperately trying to save his own little daughter. Using his body to shield her from a soldier, pointing a gun right at them. Even surrounded by violence. Seeing that man risk his life for his child really stuck with Jin. It made him wonder what family truly means. Back in the present, Diane points out that he can barely even remember her, so why try so hard to help? Jin agrees he doesn't remember much, but says it doesn't matter, they're still family. She stands there quietly, and as his words sink in, she starts to get a little embarrassed. She quickly tells him she's fine and that he should get back to his own classroom. She notes they're already there, and gives him a quick wave goodbye before disappearing inside, leaving Jin with a small smile, back in his classroom. Everyone is still buzzing about Jin, and he's feeling kind of awkward with all the attention. The other guys give him a thumbs up, asking what kind of training he got overseas, because he destroyed those guys like they were nothing. The praise keeps coming, but Jin just sinks into his chair, looking a little overwhelmed. Even his friend, young Chun, chimes in and says he was incredible, which finally gets Jin to crack a small smile. Meanwhile, we cut to the defeated thugs, who are all feeling the pressure after getting completely humiliated like that. Their boss is still furious, complaining there's something off about Jin, and yeah, you can tell he's realizing he fought a different kind of monster. His sister tries to snap him out of it, telling him to stop pouting and saying it was just a fluke. She insists Jin just caught them by surprise and that they can get him back later. But the other bullies are dead silent because they know now that Jin is an absolute powerhouse, not someone you mess with. But the blondie reminds her brother that he's just one guy and they can't let some random nobody beat them. Her brother finally tells her to shut up, saying that if she thinks it's so easy, she can go and fight the guy herself. Of course, she doesn't like that one bit and snaps back that he shouldn't take it out on her just because some nobody handed him a brutal defeat. Let's dive right back into the drama. Moi Jyn's words just hit her brother like a truck. He's seething because, deep down, he knows every single word she said is true. Moi Jyn gives him one last glare, her eyes tearing up from the sheer frustration. With nothing left to say, she quietly turns and walks out of the room. Slamming the door right behind her, down the hall, Chicken Shake rushes over. He tries to catch her, while back in the room, the blondie is still seeing red. She's furious that her entire crew couldn't even take down a single guy. She slams the classroom door open and storms right in. And trust me, you can tell this is not going to be a friendly chat with June. She starts mocking her, asking if she feels lucky now that her brother's around. Saying she can just run to her big bro if anything goes wrong, June says nothing. Which of course just makes Moi Jyn even more furious than before. She thinks June is giving her the cold shoulder now that she's got backup. Gritting her teeth, she makes it crystal clear June isn't getting away with anything. Brother or no brother, as night falls, the students all begin their walk home. We see our girl in the crowd, looking a little down in the dumps. She's replaying the moment her brother stood up for her and fought those thugs. He'd told her they were family, and she wonders if this means she can relax. Maybe she can finally stop worrying about being bullied every day at school. She remembers how miserable life was with Moi Jyn, always getting ordered around. Having to do whatever she said, acting just like a faithful dog. Every time she tried to stand up for herself, she would just get slapped down. Then all of a sudden, her brother appears behind her, asking if something's wrong. She's totally startled, but he says he already called her name a few times. She didn't answer. She quickly apologizes, saying she must not have heard him. Then she asks if he was waiting for her again. He nods and says, yeah. Because, as he puts it, he still doesn't know the way back home. So they start walking home together, talking about buying groceries for their grandpa. But as they're walking, that bully is standing just a few feet behind them. You can practically see the steam coming out of her ears, watching our girl smile. She is just waiting for the right moment to wipe that smile clean off her face. Next thing we know, the two of them are shopping inside a convenience store. The girl is having a hard time choosing what to buy, while others are staring. Actually, all the girls in the store are staring straight at her brother. And Dae definitely can't help but notice all the attention he's getting. She knew he was popular at school, but this is a whole other level. So just out of curiosity, June asks her brother if he's ever had a girlfriend. You know, back when he was living abroad, the question totally floors him. He looks like he's never even heard the word girlfriend in his entire life. Seeing how confused he looks, Dayan clarifies she means a girl he was dating. He just says he's never had one, so his sister tells him he should think about it. Especially since girls seem to be drawn to him like a magnet. He's quiet for a second, then says he's always just been too busy. Dihun gets it, since he's been busy trying to get used to a new country. And that's when he flips the question right back at her, asking if she's ever had a boyfriend. Her by surprise, and she quickly claims she's never had one either. When he asks why, she just plays it off, saying she's been too busy. Back at home, we see their grandpa gave our guy a brand new Samsung Galaxy phone. He's a little bummed though, because he wanted an iPhone. And you gotta love this, Grandpa immediately schools him, saying iPhones have awful battery life and a Samsung is way better, especially since every other kid has an iPhone. It's a classic grandpa move, telling him the Samsung will make him unique. Dae, on the other hand, is absolutely thrilled because she really wanted a Galaxy phone, and she can tell it's the newest one. Our main character starts messing with the phone, and their grandpa says he already put his and Dion's numbers into it. Dae is surprised, since she's usually the one who has to help him with anything tech-related. Grandpa just explains that the salesperson at the store helped him out. He adds with a smile that he heard young people love unboxing things themselves. So he hoped our guy wouldn't mind that he opened it just to save the numbers. Jin just plays it cool, saying he's totally fine with it. Then Grandpa apologizes to Dae, explaining the store only had one left, so he couldn't grab one for her. But Dae tells him it's no big deal at all. The three of them end up having a great dinner, just talking and enjoying a normal family moment. Later that night, our guy is still playing with his new phone and is actually starting to get into the whole Galaxy ecosystem. He starts thinking that maybe, just maybe, Samsung phones aren't so bad after all and might even be better than iPhones. The scene then cuts over to Major Kang, who's busy working on his computer when his phone starts ringing. It's Jin, calling to let him know he has a new phone and a new number. The Major is clearly a little surprised to hear this. The junior officer behind him even asks if Major Kang hadn't already given Jin a new phone. And the Major says yeah, he did. That's the moment his face turns beet red with pure anger. He points out that he gave Jin the most expensive iPhone they had in the store. So yeah, the fact that Jin already replaced it, let's just say he's absolutely furious right now. The next morning, Jin gets out of the shower and sees his sister rushing out the door, already in her school uniform. Before she can take off, Jin asks why she's leaving so early. She just says she's running late and bolts out of there. She also yells that dinner is already made, and he just needs to put the dirty dishes in the sink. As she's sprinting down the street, she checks her phone and breathes a sigh of relief. She's going to make it on time. She was late because she'd made soup for their grandpa. But seeing the smile on his face made it all completely worth it. She's just happy she could do something nice for him. But that warm, happy moment is about to get brutally cut short, trust me on this one. Three girls in hoodies and masks are suddenly standing over her, their identities hidden. The one in front tells Dayan to watch where she's going, then claims she almost broke her ankle on her. It's pretty clear they're just trying to pick a fight. They demand that Dayan apologize for this imaginary crime. The poor girl just nods her head quickly and says that she's really sorry. But the ringleader isn't satisfied with that and slaps Dihun straight across the face, telling her to apologize like a whimpering little dog. That's when one of the other girls, the one with the ponytail, speaks up. She suggests they all go to karaoke to blow off some steam. Another girl immediately agrees, saying they need to relax and have a little fun. The ponytail girl then crouches down to look Dayan right in the eye. With a nasty smirk, she invites her to come with them to karaoke, promising they're going to have a total blast, and the second Dayan hears that voice, she knows that face, hi Jin Kim, and you and I both know she's here to make her life absolute hell. Next thing you know, they're at some seedy karaoke bar. The manager sees the rough-looking girls and immediately gets a bad feeling. A moment later, that same manager is nervously creeping towards their room. He's muttering to himself about how crazy kids are these days, wondering what they destroyed. Because all he heard coming from their room was non-stop screaming, he pushes the door open and finds Dae crumpled on the floor, clearly beaten up. Thankfully, she's conscious and slowly starts to get up. Her hands are trembling as she tries to gather her things. The manager is completely stunned by the scene and tries to call for an ambulance. But Dae just says no and stumbles right out the door. Meanwhile, back at school, the teacher is doing attendance and notices Dehan is missing. The other students confirm she's not there, and everyone's confused. Dehan is not the type of girl to just ditch class. In the background, Hai Jin Kim has this smug little smirk, obviously enjoying herself. Her lackey leans over and asks if she thinks Dae is all right. But Hai Jin just tells her not to panic, insisting that Dehan being gone has absolutely nothing to do with them. Her friend just nervously agrees, playing along like it's the truth and they're totally innocent. Finally, the school day wraps up. As always, our guy is waiting outside for his sister, but he can't spot her anywhere in the sea of students. The crowd starts to clear out, the yard almost empty. But his sister is still a no-show. You can just feel his worry growing, can't you? He waits a bit longer, then pulls out his phone to call her, thinking she went home without him. But she's already there. Her phone is blowing up with his calls, but she just lets it ring. Eventually, he just gives up and heads home. The first thing he sees are her sneakers right by the door. He drops his bag, walks up to her room, and knocks softly, asking if she's in there. She quickly replies, and her brother Jin is so relieved that she's finally home. He asks her what's going on, mentioning that he tried calling her, but she never picked up. Dehan just says she's really sorry, claiming that she must have been fast asleep. But Jin immediately picks up on the strange tone in her voice and asks to come in for just a second. Dae quickly comes up with an excuse, telling him she's already in bed because she's feeling a bit sick. Worried, Jin asks if it's anything serious. She reassures him it's just a small fever and she'll be fine after getting some rest. Jin tells her to call him if she needs anything and turns to leave, probably to go buy some medicine for her. But then he stops dead in his tracks, and trust me, what he sees changes everything. Bloodstains on her sneakers. It doesn't take a genius to figure out something terrible must have happened, because that is not a normal sight. As soon as it all clicks, he grabs the first aid kit and barges into her room to take care of her himself. She flinches when he starts to bandage her bruised face. It's obvious Jin still doesn't get the full picture. Dehan tells him she fell down the stairs trying to dodge a bike. But Jin points out that her injuries look way too serious for a simple fall and asks if she's sure she doesn't need to see a doctor. She hesitates for a moment before insisting she's perfectly fine. I mean, it makes sense why she wouldn't want to go to the hospital. If she did, they'd know instantly her bruises weren't from any fall. The scene then shifts, flashing back to Dehan's past, and we're about to see how this all began. All right, let's start in the principal's office, where Dae is explaining she was ambushed by Hai Jin. But Hai Jin, she's denying every single word. The cops are here too, and Dae keeps insisting Hai Jin was the one who attacked her. She says the attacker wore a mask and a hat. But she recognized that voice. She's 100% positive it was her. Besides, Hai Jin has a history of making her life hell at school. But then, with a smug little smirk, Hai Jin asks how Dae can blame her when she never even saw a face. The principal asks Dae if she actually saw who hurt her. Dae repeats that the attacker's face was covered, but she is absolutely sure it was Hai Jin. And that's when Hai Jin's mother completely loses her mind. She angrily accuses Dae of dragging the police into this, treating her daughter like a criminal over some baseless lie. The principal tries to calm her down, but she's having none of it and makes it crystal clear she's not done. And you and I can just watch Dae's confidence completely crumble as she realizes no one believes her, even though she knows the truth. Even the police officers look like they have their doubts. The mother demands Dae apologize to her daughter right now. But our girl stands her ground, telling the woman it really was her daughter who jumped her. This just makes the arrogant mother even angrier, and now she wants to take this up with Dae's parents. She demands that Dae get them to the school immediately, and that's the final blow. It just breaks her. Tears start streaming down her face, and she can't stop. All while the monster who did this to her just laughs and walks away, getting off scot-free. Back in the present, she feels trapped in that exact same moment. She feels like it's useless to say anything without hard proof. And she's determined not to upset her grandfather, who has always been her rock. Suddenly, Jin notices her tense expression and puts a hand on her forehead, asking if she's really okay. The girl just weakly says she's fine. Trust me, these two are the heart of this story. Jin points out that while her bones seem fine, the bruises are nasty and will hurt for days. She just nods, surprised that he's actually really good at first aid. She can see that the bandages are applied perfectly. Then her expression turns sad as she thinks about their grandfather. She's worried he'll get incredibly upset over all this, especially since he has a weak heart. Jin is genuinely surprised to hear this. And she adds that their grandpa is on medication for it. Hearing that, Jin promises he'll make sure their grandfather never finds out about any of this and tells her to just focus on resting. As he starts to leave, she calls out his name. She gives him a sweet, genuine smile and thanks him for everything. And Jin returns that smile just as warmly, but the second he's gone, her smile completely vanishes. She immediately starts wondering if she made the right choice by keeping some of the details from him. She's thinking that there's not much a couple of teenagers can actually do about this situation. As we both know, Jin is not your average teenager. And I wouldn't be surprised if he already has a very good idea of who was behind his sister's attack. Later, the scene cuts to a club, music blasting, the place absolutely packed. And you and I can see him right in the middle of it all, the head bully, Gizu Kim. The boss is seriously fuming, drinking and laughing it up with his crew. They're all talking trash about Jin, wondering how one kid managed to screw everything up for them. One of the thugs points out they only lost because they completely underestimated Jin. He swears they can take him, no problem, if they just come up with a real plan first. Another goon chimes in, saying no way can they just let him get away with it. A third adds that Jin wouldn't last a second against all of them at once. But even with all the hype, their boss knows Jin is not gonna be an easy fight. He's still burning from that humiliating beatdown and has zero intention of letting it go. He slams his glass on the table, but finally agrees with his lackey. He makes it clear that one-on-one fights are not their thing anyway. So they'll jump him with a whole army. And check out the lackeys, they're all grinning like absolute psychos, loving the idea. This whole crew of morons might think they have this in the bag, but trust me. They're just a pack of hyenas about to get what they deserve. Just as they're scheming, Gizu's phone starts ringing. The caller ID, little bitch. Turns out it's his little sister, and yeah, looks like even Gu agrees with that contact name. Anyway, she immediately starts screaming at him, asking why he's chilling at the club. Gizu tells her to get to the point, or he's hanging up. The girl snaps back that he owes her, big time. Gizu has no clue what she's on about. She reminds him about Dihun getting his ass kicked earlier today. She says they can't let those siblings get away with it, or they'll lose all their clout at school. Her brother, looking a little proud, tells her she did a good job. He then reveals they're already in the middle of planning some payback for Jin. And right on cue, someone walks into the club. Now watch this. The bullies turn and realize it's Jin himself, and he is 100% there to settle a score. Gizu is absolutely livid to see Jin, just strolling into his territory like he owns it. But Jin doesn't even flinch, just keeps walking toward their table, cool as can be. Gizu gets this smug look, thinking great, the target just delivered himself. But Jin isn't here to talk. Without a single wasted second, he grabs a lackey by the face and slams him straight down onto the corner of the table. Another one charges. But Jin's hand is a blur, one punch shatters the guy's ribs. The boss and his crew can only watch in horror as their boys get dropped. You can feel the rest of the goons rushing Jin, but our guy isn't even breaking a sweat. As they swarm him, he kicks one down, Effortless, a total boss move. Next, he grabs a guy with purple hair and just smashes his head onto the table. Brutal. While the purple-haired dude is completely losing his mind, Jin isn't done yet and just throws him against the wall like a cheap rag doll. He clenches his fist and lands a massive punch right in another fatty's face. One of the thugs grabs a glass bottle to attack, but our boy just casually swats it out of his hand, following up with a brutal shot to the face. The thug is left on the ground, spitting up blood. Another bully tries to jump him from behind, but Jin just ducks, grabs his hand, twists it until he screams, and delivers a hard slap right across his jaw. Jin shoves the thug away, and he instantly grabs the next thug by the face, smashing the guy's mug straight into his knee. And you can feel a sickening crunch as the thug's nose shatters. With every goon down, Gizu just stands there completely speechless, unable to even process what just went down. And all this time, his sister is still on the phone, asking what's going on after hearing all the chaos. Jin turns to Gizu, and the look in his eyes, so cold it makes Gizu actually shiver. He asks if Gizu needs a reminder, because last he checked, Jin already warned him to stay away from his sister. Gizu is just mind-blown at how fast the tables have turned. Ironic, isn't it? They tried ganging up on Jin, only to get their entire crew completely dismantled. Jin fought like an absolute pro, wiping the floor with all of them in just seconds. He keeps grilling Gizu, demanding to know what his sister ever did to him. Gizu plays dumb, acting like he has no idea what Jin's talking about, secretly reaching for a glass. Now watch this, he hurls the glass at Jin with lightning speed. But our guy just takes a casual step back, letting it shatter against the wall. While he's just standing there, totally unbothered, Gizu grabs a bottle and swings it at him. Our boy steps back again, dodging the attack, but when Gizu swings a second time, Jin smacks it from his hand and counters with a punch so hard it sends the drink inside, splattering everywhere. Gizu tries throwing a punch now, but our guy hits him with another brutal smack across the face, making his nose bleed like a faucet. Gizu stumbles back, gasping for air after that hit, while Jin stays perfectly cool and composed, not even breaking a sweat. Jin then asks this punk what sick pleasure he gets from messing with a helpless girl. In a last-ditch effort, Gizu grabs another bottle, smashes it and tries to stab Jin in the chest with the jagged end, but our boy doesn't even flinch. He just slaps Gizu's hand so hard the broken bottle clatters to the floor. Then he grabs him by the throat and squeezes, and yup, you and I both know this is over. Gizu's feet scramble as he struggles to breathe, and Jin forcefully slams him to the ground. The punk writhes and squirms, desperately trying to break Jin's iron grip, but our guy is not letting up. His hand is pressed firmly on Gizu's throat, making sure this bully knows exactly who's in charge now. Jin lines in, asking Gizu what he should do with him. Gizu, who's barely conscious from that beatdown, can't even manage an answer. Jin gives him one final warning, making it crystal clear this is the absolute last time he'll let him off easy. He tells him to stay away from his sister, and to keep Hui Jin, Gizu's sister, on a leash, too. He stresses that if he even hears a rumor about them bothering his sister again, he'll be back to finish what he started. To really drive the point home, Jin tightens his grip on the guy's throat, pushing him to the absolute edge of passing out. The bully, now totally desperate, starts squirming and apologizing over and over again. Jin finally lets go, leaving Gizu on the floor, gasping for air and coughing violently as he walks away. As Jin heads out, the club staff just trade nervous looks, not sure what they just witnessed. Meanwhile, Hui Jin and her friend are walking down the street. Hui Jin suddenly gets a really bad feeling and starts worrying that her brother might be in trouble. All right, stick with me. They get to the club, hear footsteps on the stairs, and who do they see? Jin just casually walking away. Hui Jin is completely frozen, no idea what to do. She yells for Jin to stop, probably thinking she can play it cool now that there's no proof she was behind today's attack. But Jin doesn't even break his stride. That's when Hoi Jin starts to panic. She stumbles backward, tripping and landing hard on the ground. As she's rubbing her shoulder, Jin's phone rings. He glances at it, it's his grandpa. After a quick call, he just turns and heads home, not saying another word, leaving them all confused. Later, when Hoi Jin gets to the club room, it's a war zone. Her brother and his crew are totally wrecked. She immediately starts yelling, asking how he let Jin destroy him again. But her brother is too beaten down to even argue. He just cuts her off and tells her to stay away from Dehyun from now on. Hoi Jin, not getting the danger, just keeps arguing, asking what he's talking about, and that's when her brother, looking absolutely defeated, finally snaps. He grits his teeth and screams at her to leave our boy's sister the hell alone. But Hoi Jin still doesn't back down, yelling about why he's so scared of that bastard. That was the final straw. Her brother's eyes flash with pure fury. He tells her point blank that if she doesn't back off from Dehyun, he'll personally destroy her himself. You and I are just watching some next-level family dysfunction. It's wild how they talk about hurting each other. Hoi Jin is finally rattled by her brother's threat and starts to cry. We cut back to our boy, meeting up with his grandpa again. They find a quiet park bench to sit on. The first thing Grandpa does is apologize for pulling him away from his friends, but he says it's no problem. The old man then gets a heavy look, bringing up Dehyun's injuries and that our boy was the one who bandaged her up. Our boy confirms it. And the grandpa explains her injuries are bad, but she's refusing to go to a hospital. He talks about how hard it was to raise Dehyun all by himself. He admits he never knew how to take care of a little girl and was always working just to keep them fed. And he's just so grateful she grew up so well, mostly on her own. Looking back, Grandpa feels like Dehyun gave him way more than he ever gave her. He lost everything in that accident. And after the plane crash took his entire world, let that sink in. Dehyun was the only reason he kept living. It kills him to see her hurting like this, not even telling him why. He wonders if she thinks he's just too old to understand. He brings up how people say kids grow apart from their parents as they get older, so it must be even harder for her to open up to him. But our boy jumps right in, telling the old man he's overthinking it. He says it's obvious how much Grandpa loves Dehyun, and he's 100% sure she loves him back just as fiercely. He tells Grandpa to stop worrying and promises he'll look after her at school. Hearing that, the old man finally looks relieved, genuinely happy that Dehyun has someone like a brother looking out for her. All right, now let's switch gears and head over to the Omnia Medical Examination Center. Inside, we find Gizu, all patched up from his injuries. And he's getting an earful from his father, who is beyond disappointed in him. His dad doesn't mince words, telling Gizu he absolutely deserved everything that he got. All right, let's watch what happens when bullies get what they deserve and their parents just make it worse. The mom starts absolutely screaming at her husband. She can't believe their son is in the hospital. And that's all he has to say. She tells him to find the brute who did this and yell at him instead. She even points out it's the same kid who busted Hijin's arm. Honestly, this whole family is a train wreck. Hijin is so twisted. She even pinned the blame for her own injury on our boy. We all know the truth. She's the one who tripped and messed up her shoulder, but instead of taking responsibility, she's blaming him for all of it. The furious father finally just calms himself down with a long sigh. The mother tells her son to just focus on resting up, but as they start to leave, she grumbles about making the kid who hurt their son pay if she ever gets her hands on him. Once they're gone, Gizu finally asks his sister why she had to tell their parents. He explains that by doing that, she's just made everything 1,000 times worse for him. He feels humiliated, thinking people will say he ran to his parents like a little brat. After getting beaten up, now here's where the sister's lies really start to stack up. Pay attention. She asks how she was supposed to hide her brother being in the hospital, or the fact that her own arm was broken. Gizu gets ticked off, demanding to know if Jin was the one. Who did this to her? She remembers tripping and falling, but she doesn't mention a word of that. Instead, she just says Jin was responsible. It's actually insane how shamelessly she's passing the blame. She quickly stands up and tells him to just stay here and get better. She promises she'll make them realize exactly who they're dealing with. Gizu just sits there, wondering if they should really mess with our boy again. Meanwhile, we're back with the parents. The woman reveals she just spoke to a Mr. Cha. But her husband asks why she's complicating things, telling her to let the school handle it. She snaps back that it's Saturday already and she's not about to sit around and do nothing. She starts yelling, pointing out the school won't deliver real justice. For what happened to their kids, they'll probably just settle for a suspension or expulsion. The husband keeps arguing, saying she has no business going to Mr. Cha to handle this personally. And yeah, I know what you're thinking, this is getting out of hand. The woman reveals she already knows Mr. Cha, saying he's handled his dirty work for years. Meanwhile, Hijin is eavesdropping, looking pretty smug about her mother. Contacting Mr. Cha, she knows he's the scary gangster who works for her father. And she's sure this will finally put an end to those troublemakers for good. The scene shifts to a rundown place where a man is nervously fidgeting with his lighter. He's clearly on edge. Two of his goons walk by, looking pretty disappointed. They grumble about their boss ordering them to handle some teenage drama. Yeah, none of them are thrilled about it. Even their boss isn't happy about dealing with this kid's fight. But hey, a job is a job. Even if it means putting up with a bunch of high school nonsense. Then, a flashback. A luxury Mercedes zooms down the road. Inside, Mr. Cha, the mafia boss, takes a call. It's the woman. She's filling him in on how her daughter's hand got fractured. And her son got totally beaten up by some random teenager. You and I both know she's insisting that he needs to handle it. Cha takes a long drag from his cigarette, smoke pouring out. He is absolutely furious. Just beyond frustrated that he has to deal with this kind of petty drama. The scene cuts back to our boy Jin, sitting in front of his computer. He's totally lost in thought, replaying that whole encounter with Gizu in his head. Are those guys really just gonna let it go? Suddenly, his doorbell rings. He can hear his grandpa arguing with someone right at the front door. Turns out, the visitors at their doorstep are here looking for Jin. An intimidating man claims they just want a quick word with him. But it's late, and Grandpa wants to know what could possibly be so urgent. Our boy steps out of his room, telling his grandpa he'll be right back. Despite his grandpa's worry and his sister's protests, Jin just gives them a calm smile. He tells them he knows these guys, and it's just gonna be a quick chat. Nothing to worry about. With that, he leaves his concerned family behind. The goons lead him to an abandoned construction site, and he starts to wonder. Who exactly are they taking him to meet? When they finally arrive, a lackey reports in. He tells his boss they've brought the person in question. The boss says nothing. He just puffs on his cigarette. The bald goon adds that the kid caught on fast. He didn't make a scene, he just came along quietly. The boss seems a little surprised. And pleased, he decides to make this quick and snaps his fingers. Immediately, his lackeys grab their iron bats. One goon tells his buddy to hold him. He's going to be the one to deliver the beating. Meanwhile, the boss sighs. He decides to text the mother, letting her know he's handling the job. But while the boss is scrolling through his phone, looking for her contact, a lackey asks why their target had to mess with the kids from the Kim family. And as soon as our boy hears that name, he knows this is all about Gizu Kim. The boss, annoyed, stops scrolling through his phone for a second. He figures he probably shouldn't call her while our boy is still conscious. But then he looks over at Jin, intrigued by how calm and emotionless he seems. Now pay attention. Just as the goon charges, Jin moves with lightning speed. He snatches the bald lackey's wrist before the bat can even swing and shoves him. Then a brutal shoulder smash, delivered right to the man's face. The boss just stares, his eyes wide, watching this flawless execution. The other lackey, bat in hand, swings hard at our boy's head. Jin ducks under it, the bat whistling harmlessly over him. The goon tries again, but this time Jin charges right at the bat. No fear. This move leaves the mafia boss completely and utterly bewildered. With incredible speed, our boy traps the baseball bat under his arm and delivers a brutal uppercut right under the lackey's chin. He doesn't stop, following up with a devastating blow straight to the chest. Then with a fierce grip on the guy's neck, he slams him onto the bricks below. The boss can only watch in shock, stunned by the sheer skill of our boy's moves. The bald lackey grabs Jin from behind, screaming that he's going to kill him. But our boy just jabs an elbow into the goon's ribs, quick and sharp. Then follows up with another shoulder smash to the face, sending him crashing down. And you and I both know what Mr. Cha is thinking. This kid is no average teenager. His men are useless, so the boss finally decides to step in himself. He strolls forward, scratching his head and laughing about how he never thought he'd be fighting teenagers at his age. Meanwhile, our boy can tell this mafia boss looks tough, but his actual skill is full of holes. You and I can literally see all of his weak spots from a mile away. As the boss swings, Jin effortlessly sidesteps the powerful fist. The boss unleashes a barrage of punches. But our boy dodges every single one with ease, making it look like a casual stroll in the park. They go back and forth, our boy quickly sidestepping another attack, but the next punch comes straight for him. He blocks it, but the sheer force sends him skidding backward. The mafia boss just sneers, impressed that the kid actually managed to block that one. Okay, pay attention here. Jin glances at his wrist where he took the hit, wincing from the sharp pain. He realizes the boss predicted his movement and landed that punch perfectly. On the other side, the boss is getting more and more curious now. He demands to know who Jin really is. Jin just casually replies he's a high school kid. The boss isn't buying it for a second. In his mind, there's no way. A kid with this level of skill had to have some serious training. Jin just retakes his fighting stance. The boss grins, saying he's ready for round 2, and balls up his fist to launch another attack. Our boy deflects the incoming punch and throws his own, but the boss dodges it just as easily. The boss tries to counter, but Jin grabs his hand and aims a clean punch straight for his gut. The boss reacts instantly, causing the punch to land square on his face instead. Mr. Cha is absolutely furious after taking a hit like that and tries to swing again. But once more, our boy deflects the attack, locks eyes with him, and delivers a brutal blow right back to his face. He follows up with a series of devastating punches, sending Mr. Cha crashing to the ground. Utterly humiliated by a high schooler, a mafia boss who fights with his fists. You don't see that every day. Anyway, once Mr. Cha is down, he just grins, noticing our boy isn't even fazed by the fight. He has no idea where this kid came from, but one thing is certain. The Kim family messed with the wrong guy. Now stick with me, the story's about to jump. We cut to the agency of National Assembly member Imbe Kim. 2 guards are posted right outside an office. Inside, we find Mrs. and Mr. Kim. The wife is getting antsy, wondering why Mr. Cha hasn't called back yet. She's getting more impatient by the second, telling him to call Mr. Cha now. Mr. Kim just tells her to wait, that he'll call when the job is done. Nearby, their daughter lets out a quiet sigh of her own. Just then, the phone starts ringing. The impatient woman immediately tells her husband to put the call on speaker so she can hear. Mr. Kim starts by apologizing to Mr. Cha for the trouble. He calls his wife's request ridiculous. But the woman, however, starts yelling that her kids were attacked, so how could it possibly be ridiculous? Then, to everyone's total shock, Mr. Cha speaks. He says he's the one who needs to apologize, and you and I both know that changes everything. And that's when Mr. Cha drops the bomb. It seems their kids messed with the wrong person. Because see, Cha himself had already been taken down by our boy. This news absolutely floors Mr. Kim. As far as he knows, Mr. Cha is the best. The best enforcer in the business, losing to a high school kid, unfathomable. Now watch this, the office door starts to rattle, someone is trying to force it open. Mr. and Mrs. Kim just stare at the door, their faces filled with pure anxiety. When it finally bursts open, they see soldiers sprawled out on the ground, defeated. The husband and wife are completely stunned, and even their bratty daughter is alarmed. She literally jumps out of her seat as Jin casually strolls into the room. The door slams shut behind him, leaving their unconscious bodyguards on the other side. Mr. Cha, still on the phone, immediately realizes that Jin has breached the compound. He leans back, letting out a completely defeated sigh. He's still trying to process it. He just can't wrap his head around being beaten by a single high school student. Now he's just worried about how to handle this absolute mess. Inside, Jin is on her feet. And Mrs. Kim is screaming at Jin, demanding to know if he's the one. The kid who dared to lay a hand on her precious children. The man at the desk, however, just wants to know how in the world Jin got inside his private office. That's when this arrogant woman starts gritting her teeth, absolutely furious. She's pissed because her husband isn't freaking out the way she is. The husband stays calm and asks again, this time more insistently, how Jin got past security. Jin just shrugs, casually saying he simply walked past the guards. Mr. Kim is even more shocked. He's totally confused. How did this one kid beat Mr. Cha and all of his security guards? But what bothers him even more is how Jin even knew where he lived. The mother starts yelling again, telling Jin to drop the attitude. She grabs her phone and starts dialing the emergency hotline to report him for assaulting her kids and for breaking into their office. Meanwhile, Jin is loving this. She's actually proud of her mom's power move, thinking the police will handle everything. I mean, she figures no matter how strong Jin is, he can't fight the law, right? The arrogant mother tries to intimidate Jin with her connections and threats, claiming she'll call the police, maybe even the district attorney. She's sure Jin has no idea who he's messing with, but Jin remains perfectly calm. He replies that actually, he has a pretty good idea who they are. He points out her husband is a second-term assemblyman currently running for office. The woman just scoffs. If he knew all that, then why would he attack her kids? Over on the side, Jin just sneers, completely satisfied. She's sure they have him cornered, whispering that it's game over. The authorities pick up. The lady starts yelling into the phone, demanding officers get to Kim's office immediately. But before she can get another word out, she goes completely silent. And trust me, you're going to want to hear what's playing in the background. Jin plays the full, unedited footage of the karaoke room incident. The recording of Moi Jyn and her friends brutally assaulting his sister. She's speechless. Her eyes go wide in absolute shock. Mr. Kim just sits there, utterly silent, completely devastated. All you can hear are the screams from the video. Dean's pleas for forgiveness echo through the room as the girls beat her to a pulp. Faced with hard evidence, Mrs. Kim's jaw hits the floor and she quickly hangs up the hotline, stammering that she'll call back. Moi Jyn, on the other hand, starts screaming at Jin, demanding how he got his hands on those files. Jin stays silent for a beat, then we flash back to the outside of the Kim family mansion. Inside, we see Jin sneaking through the house. He flips open a laptop and copies every last byte of data onto a flash drive. Back in the present, Mr. Kim is gritting his teeth, realizing his kids are a complete and utter disappointment. But Moi Jyn desperately tries to explain herself, claiming she had a perfectly good reason for it all. Her father just explodes, telling her to shut her mouth. That's when Jin reveals he has files on Gizu Kim, too. Now pay attention, this is where it gets worse for them. He tells the parents their kids love to record every single one of their conquests. He's got dozens of videos showing their violent rampages. Beating up kids at school, shaking down victims for money and valuables. And yup, even the latest clip of his sister being jumped by a pack of girls at karaoke. Moi Jyn is trembling as these truth bombs go off one by one. But her mother leaps to her defense, accusing Jin of just trying to threaten them. She spits that he won't get away with it. But Jin reminds her that he wasn't the one who started this mess. And what he's doing is hardly a threat compared to them hiring a gang of thugs to attack him. And oh yeah, he recorded all of that too. The father just buries his face in his hands, completely defeated, and asks Jin if he did all this just because his kids hurt his sister. Jin says that as parents, it's their right to stand by their children no matter what. So as her brother, he's going to do whatever it takes to protect his sister. The father actually seems to understand. He points out that they'll cover her medical bills and even offer a huge settlement. But our boy cuts him off, making it clear none of that is necessary. The father is confused and asks him what he means. He then asks if Jin wants his kids to apologize to his sister. At that, Hyojun grits her teeth, thinking she would rather bite her own tongue off and bleed out than ever apologize. Meanwhile, Jin makes it clear that an apology won't change a thing. It won't erase the fear and pain his sister went through. He says if they truly want to pay him back, he wants his sister to never see Ju or Hyojun Kim again. The demand sends a shockwave through Hyojun, but her father immediately agrees. He says he'll have them transfer schools, hell, maybe even send them overseas to study. Of course, the mother and daughter let out an ear-splitting shriek of protest. But the father shuts them down instantly and turns his focus back to our boy, asking if that would be enough to settle this. Jin states that he wants them gone from the school starting tomorrow. The father promises he'll make the call. And with that settled, Jin just breaks down, tears streaming down her face, as Jin turns to leave. The father stops him, reminding him that since he agreed to the terms, he expects Jin to delete every single one of those videos. Our boy just gives the old man a death glare, and trust me, you and I can both see it in that moment. The father realizes that ice-cold stare doesn't belong to a high schooler. Jin makes it clear he's no fool. Then he turns and walks away, slamming the office door behind him with a loud thud, and with that, he finally heads home. Stick with me here, because this family reunion hits different. His sister Dion is in the background, tears streaming down her face. Jin is shocked to see them this worried, but he puts on a smile, reassuring them that nobody heard a thing. As he steps inside, his grandpa warns him that those guys look dangerous. Jin just brushes it off, saying they only stopped by for a chat, nothing more. But his sister isn't buying it. She says something about them felt completely wrong. Both she and their grandpa were sick with worry. Jin just tells her to focus on one thing and one thing only, getting better. Then he drops a hint, telling his sister she won't ever have to walk down those stairs again. He's taken care of it. Now, that doesn't really register with her yet, but she's about to find out exactly what he meant. The next morning, they make their way to school. Once they're inside, they split up and head to their own classes. As Dion enters her classroom, she actively tries to avoid looking at Moi Jyn. But she freezes in her tracks when she overhears students gossiping about Hyojun Jin not coming to school anymore. The whole class is buzzing. Wondering what could have happened, one of the girls chimes in, explaining that Hyojun and her brother are both transferring to study abroad. And just like that, the news hits Dion like a lightning bolt. Here's where it all clicks. Her biggest problem, her main tormentor, is just gone. Jin's words from last night echo in her head. He must have known about Hyojun's transfer this entire time. Without a second thought, Dion bolts out of the classroom to find him. When she finally spots him and calls his name, he turns around. But the moment she tries to speak, the words get stuck in her throat. She's just silent. Jin simply smiles and says, "See you later," leaving Dion with tears welling up in her eyes. She barely manages to whisper back, "See you later," before completely breaking down. A little while later, let's switch gears and check out what the other side's saying. In an apartment, a blonde girl asks her friends if the rumor about Hyojun moving overseas is actually true. Another girl confirms it. Admitting she was shocked too, she says it's totally sudden, especially since Hijin never once mentioned anything about going abroad. The blonde girl then looks over at Chicken Shake, who's been sitting in dead silence, lost in her own thoughts. One of the friends snaps her out of it, asking if she has anything to add. The question clearly rattles the poor girl. The blonde then puts her on the spot, asking directly if Hijin is really moving, since they're classmates. Chicken Shake should have the inside scoop right. Timidly looking like she's about to crumble, she confirms it's true. Their teacher announced it to the class this morning. The blonde girl then asks if she's tried calling Hijin. Chicken Shake says she did, but Hijin didn't answer. Hearing that, the reality starts to sink in for all of them. Meanwhile, Chicken Shake is anxiously checking her phone, biting her nails to the quick. The very last text she got from Hijin was an ominous one, saying her mom was going to take care of our boy. And ever since that message, she's been freaking out, wondering if this sudden move has everything to do with him. And then Hijin herself storms into the room, and trust me, she looks absolutely furious. And Hai Jin flops onto the sofa, complaining about how she barely slipped out of the house. All right, you and I are about to crash the Mean Girls Club meeting. Frustrated, Hai Jin clutches her head, saying it all just happened so fast. But she explains she'll only be gone for 1 semester. We flash back to her father telling her to study abroad, promising he would handle everything by the time she returned because he can't have those videos getting out either. Of course, she keeps that little detail to herself. The other girls just laugh it off, teasing her about her little vacation. The blonde girl just sneers, clearly not buying their fake supportive act. Another girl asks why she's leaving so suddenly and if Gizu is going with her. Hoyen snaps that it's a family issue and she doesn't need to explain the details. The redhead then brings up Dion and her brother, asking how the fight went and if Gizu actually managed to win. Hyun cuts them off, insisting Gizu probably took care of the situation. But we all know the truth, she's just too embarrassed to admit her brother and his buddy got totally crushed by our main character. She gets even more pissed off, just imagining how happy Dion will be to see her gone from school. This irritation sparks an idea in her twisted mind, and trust me, it's a seriously nasty one. She's going to mess with Dion one last time. Her friends ask if that's really a good idea. Even Chicken Shake jumps, looking totally against the plan. But Hijin argues back, telling them to imagine how cocky Dion will get without anyone there to keep her in line. She's dead set on dealing with Dion before she leaves Korea. Chicken Shake looks more and more terrified by the second as Hijin keeps laying out her garbage plan. With a smug look, Hyujin boasts that Diane's grandfather is just some security guard and she's going to have her mom get him fired. She thinks this will finally teach Dion a lesson about messing with the Kim family. Seriously, this girl is the worst. Dion is completely innocent, and Hyujin's scheme is just pure evil. But before this psycho can put her awful plan into motion, her face drains of all color. She sees a figure standing right in front of her, cloaked in a hoodie, face hidden by a mask. It doesn't take a genius to figure out it must be Jin. But Jin hits her with the ultimate Uno reverse, asking, "Who's Jin?" He questions how she could possibly know who he is when his face is completely covered. He calmly says he's just dropping by to make sure everyone is having fun. And look at that, everyone from that karaoke room video is here. One of the girls starts shaking, asking what on earth he's talking about. That's when he reminds them he's talking about the place where they all filmed his sister getting beaten into the ground. Hu Jin's face turns to ash. She realizes he might have been waiting here this whole time, just to corner her. Chicken Shake is sweating bullets and trembling. She knows exactly what's about to happen. The other two girls are frozen solid, totally silent. The boy starts to slowly close the door, asking why nobody's singing. I thought you all loved to scream along to loud music, and with that, he slams the door shut. And just like that, he traps them inside. You and I both know this is about to get intense. The scene then cuts to the hospital where the Kim family has gathered. The father, In-by Kim, is there. All right, let's watch this whole family's world absolutely crumble, starting with him asking where Jin went. Her brother explains she just stepped out to say goodbye to her friends. In-bayam snaps, asking why she'd leave when they were supposed to be laying low. But before he can finish, an aide bursts in, frantically turning on the TV. He yells that his master needs to see what's happening. On the screen, it's bad. Our boy already leaked the videos of Jin's bullying, and they've gone viral. The footage is everywhere, and this private disaster is now a full-blown public scandal. The entire Kim family can only stare at the screen in stunned silence. But the reporter isn't done, revealing there are dozens of these violent videos. Pay attention, because what you're seeing is their entire world collapsing in real time. Civic groups and politicians are already demanding a special bill to punish the culprits. Gi-ju starts to completely lose it as the reporter adds insult to injury. The nation is especially disgusted by the fact that the bullies are the children of candidate In-bayam Kim. Yeah, the father is in deep, deep trouble now. And it's all thanks to his wife, who pushed this whole mess over the edge. Considering Jin wanted to make our grandpa jobless, this feels like pure karma. They're getting what they deserve. We cut back to our boy, getting grilled by Mr. Cha. Cha demands to know why he went public with the plan after they already made a deal. Our main character's mind flashes back to a memory from the past. We see him learning just how deep the Kim family's political connections really run. He knew it was unlikely things would just go smoothly, so he took matters into his own hands. Back in the present, he admits he broke the agreement they made. Mr. Cha scoffs, asking if he really thinks the Kims will just let this slide. Our boy just smiles, confidently stating that he's probably the last thing on their minds. And you and I both know he's 100% right about that. Because back on the news, another bombshell drops, revealing recent evidence. It shows In-bayam Kim's direct involvement in money laundering, bribery, and election fraud. The evidence is so damning, even his own party members are turning their backs on him. They're all demanding a strict investigation, trying to cut ties before the ship sinks. The second Mr. Kim hears this on the news, he just collapses onto the bed. Totally lifeless. Meanwhile, back with Mr. Cha, he's starting to look pretty nervous. He suspects our boy has probably dug up some dirt on his past, too. And Cha definitely doesn't want to get exposed like the Kim family, so he asks, "Who is our main character, really?" Our boy simply says he's just an average teenager. Mr. Cha just smirks at that ridiculous line, knowing nothing about Jin is average. And speaking of not being average, the scene shifts and we see just how much has changed. In the classroom, the girls are blushing and whispering every time they see Jin. They're trying to work up the courage to approach him, but everyone is just frozen. They're all way too shy. As Jin sits there, his phone rings. It's Diane. She lets him know she can walk home by herself today and that he should take a break. And maybe try hanging out with his friends. Jin is genuinely confused by the concept. How do you even do that? Just then, his friend Yongchan pops up to greet him. As Yongchan sits down, he asks Jin if he's busy later today. Our boy is silent, which makes Yongchan remember that Jin is always busy. He always walks his little sister home, so he must be busy, but not today. Surprisingly, Jin tells his friend he's actually free today, and Yongchan's face just lights up. They make plans to hang out after school, but stick with me, this is where their good day ends. Yongchan's happy expression vanishes the second he hears a voice he hoped to avoid. As the scene pans out, we see them, the two resident bullies of the class, stepping forward. They announce that they've heard the news, and they know Jin is the reason Gizu Kim is moving abroad. Yongchan is totally floored by this revelation. The other students just lounging around are completely caught off guard, too. The bullies spill everything, how Gizu and his sister were all set to move. But now they're stuck because their whole family is in trouble after an info leak. Our boy immediately jumps in to set the record straight, telling the bullies they're wrong. But Jae-hung just smirks, saying, "No need to be so modest about it. I know what you're thinking, and yeah, he's about to expose everything." He says everyone knows Jin completely wrecked Gizu and his crew at their hideout. Hukshin backs him up, adding that Jin took them all down by himself. Now the rumor is Gizu is too embarrassed to even show his face at school. He's dying to know how badly Jin must have beaten Gizu to make him leave the country. Yang Chan is finally convinced that Jin is a legitimately skilled fighter, and that his performance that day wasn't just some lucky fluke. Hukshin leans in, saying that since they won't deal with that psycho anymore, they should party. He invites our boy to come celebrate with them after school today. Jae-hung agrees, saying they've been classmates for days but haven't really hung out. He suggests they show our main character around the area, but Jin shuts them down flat. He says he already has plans for today, which naturally leaves the bullies puzzled. They ask what he's doing, and with a pleasant smile, Jin says he's planning to hang out with Yang Chan. That's when Jae-hung gets a creepy grin. He leans right into Yang Chan's personal space, announcing he'll join their hangout. Hukshin gets closer to the terrified guy, saying he wants to tag along as well. After pretty much forcing Yang Chan to agree, they finally start to walk away. They say they'll meet up later. And Jin quickly asks his friend if he really wants these thugs coming with them, but the poor guy just stutters. With a pale face, he forces out a yes, just as the teacher walks into the classroom. Okay, the class dynamic is already a mess. Now, watch who she brings with her. One is a plain-looking guy, but the other is an absolute beauty with striking black hair. Yang Chan's eyes immediately go wide at the sight of her, and our boy notices. He asks his friend if he knows who they are, and Yang Chan is like, everyone knows her. That's Yona Sin, and her grandpa owns SW Corporation, the biggest company in Korea. The guy beside her is Seok Juko, and rumor has it that he's been with her for years. He's apparently been by her side since they were kids, acting as her associate and bodyguard. The teacher notes that since everyone's familiar with them, she's not going to waste any time on long introductions. She just reveals they've both been studying in the US for the past 2 years and are joining the class starting today. The two bullies do not look thrilled about these newcomers in the classroom. Before, with only Jin around, their chances of ruling the class were already slim. But now, with these two added to the mix, they're not so sure they can even think about bullying anyone anymore. Meanwhile, Yang Chan was curious about something. So the mystery of the 2 extra desks is solved. It's clear now who they're for. And you can see why Yeona looks even more stunning than our guy remembered. The entire class just can't take their eyes off her. And as Sioku follows right behind, he walks forward, spots our main character, and their eyes lock for just a moment. Yeona can't resist either, stealing a quick glance as she walks past him. Once the 2 newcomers are seated, Seaju lines over, telling Yeona that our guy wasn't on the evaluation report he got a week ago, and he wants to double-check. Yeona's interest is piqued. She glances at our hero once more, and you can tell she's definitely curious about him. Our guy catches Yeona looking, and when he glances back, he finds her smiling. But he just turns away. That cold shoulder really seems to irritate her, since she clearly expected a smile back. Meanwhile, Yang Chan breaks the silence, asking if he has any place he wants to go in particular. Jin says he's okay with anything. So Yang Chan suggests hitting up the game room. And that phrase, game room, seems to trigger some memories for our boy, as his friends explain it's nearby and just upgraded its PCs. Now stick with me, this is where we get a look into his past. We hear the commanding tone of a senior telling a group of soldiers they will begin today's practical life training program. He explains that there is one thing every Korean teenager must know, and that is the gaming room. This is the first time our boy has ever heard of such a place. The senior further explains that gaming rooms rent out personal computers for a fee, and that both students and adults use them. Curious, our hero asks what people actually do there. The senior explains that while some people browse the internet or watch questionable videos, most people are there to play games. For the average high school student, over 90% are playing some computer game. And let's see what was on the curriculum. He introduces some of the most popular titles. First up is Legends of League, followed by Battle Royale. Back in the present, our boy realizes how he can finally put all of the major's intel to good use. Meanwhile, Young Chan adds they can also grab ramen at the game room and maybe check out Koinsa afterward. It seems like Koinka is another one of those terms our boy picked up during his military days while learning about modern life. The senior explains to him that high schoolers are always visiting coin karaoke, also known as koina. These places basically allow you to sing your heart out for just a few coins. Major. Kang tells our boy he should have a few songs prepared just in case he ever ends up at one, and promises to send a list of popular songs for kids his age. As our guy's mind starts racing, trying to remember a few songs, his friend sits there nervously. Wondering why Jin suddenly looks so serious, the bell rings and students head out for the day. And that's when we see her again, and as usual, she's with her sidekick. Turns out they're discussing our main character, and discover that he transferred just a few days ago, is 18 years old, and is also Dion Yu's older brother. Yona is floored to learn that Dion has a brother, because she thought her only family was her grandfather. Siakchuko agrees, explaining that Dion has been living with her grandfather since her parents and brother died in a plane crash. Which makes Yona ask the one question we're all thinking, how does she still have a brother? Siakchuko finds that hard to believe. But apparently, her dead brother suddenly popped back to life right before their school transfer. He figures it's time they start digging into our boy's past. Meanwhile, it's gotten pretty late, and we see our main character just walking alone. His phone keeps buzzing with notifications from his friends, who are having a great time at the gaming center. This triggers a flashback to the club where we see Hukjin, our boy Jae Hyung, and Yang Chan just hanging out together. Everyone is completely blown away by how Yang Chan basically carried the entire team to victory. Jae Hyung even asks about his rank, guessing he's gotta be diamond or master level. And trust me, their jaws hit the floor when Yang Chan shyly admits he's actually in challenger rank. From that second on, their whole attitude toward Yang Chan does a complete 180. Back in the present, even our boy thinks this sudden change is weird as they keep gushing over Yang Chan's insane rank. While he's staring at his phone, his sister shows up. He immediately asks her what she's doing out so late. She explains they ran out of garbage bags at home, so she went to buy more and picked up some snacks too. Our boy offers to carry the bags for her, but his sister just insists it's fine. She then asks if he was out with his friends, and he says yeah, he was. A wave of relief washes over her. Happy he's actually making friends and that people aren't scared of him because of that fight. When she asks where he went, he just bluntly tells her he was at the game room. Now it looks like this isn't quite the answer she was hoping for. Thinking he might have picked up some different hobbies after living overseas for so long. Curious about how she's doing, he flips the question and asks her how school has been. She takes a second before answering that school hasn't been this much fun in a long, long time. She then asks if he grabbed a bite to eat too. He nods, telling her they had a blast at the game room where you could get pretty much any snack imaginable. He asks about her plans, and she says she's waiting for their grandpa to get home so they can all eat together. Our boy then asks if he can join, which seems to confuse her since she thought he'd already eaten dinner. He just awkwardly admits that he's still a little hungry. But let's be real, you and I know our boy just wants some quality family time. Back at home, the table is covered with an amazing spread of food, and the three of them seem to be having a really great time together. It does seem a little strange that Grandpa only works as a security guard. Yet they eat like this almost every single day, a bit of a mystery how they're pulling that off, as they're enjoying the meal. Our boy's mind drifts back, just for a moment, to his old mercenary days. After a second, he snaps out of it, back to smiling with his family. Just then, his phone rings. It's Major Kang. The Major reminds him that he should just call him bro, not bother with his rank. He asks how everything's going, and our boy says he's doing fine. But when the Major asks specifically about school life, there's just a long, awkward silence from his end. Getting worried, the Major immediately jumps to the worst conclusion. Did you kill someone? Jin quickly says no, but admits there was some trouble that got sorted out fast. The senior breathes a heavy sigh of relief. And our boy tells him that everything's fine now, so there's no need to worry. Kang is relieved and reminds our boy that they've always got his back. In response, Jin promises he won't forget that anytime soon. The next day at school, the trio is in class, but our boy is nowhere to be seen. And Young Chan looks super awkward with the other two bullies. And this is where the gossip starts. Stick with me. Yi-hyung asks who they would win in a fight between Jin and Seok. Hyukjin points out that while Jin's good, he probably couldn't beat Seok, who's been training in combat sports since he was a kid. Next to him, our boy looks like a total amateur. Yi-hyung just nods along, agreeing. He adds that Seok is one tough customer. Hearing this, Young Chan jumps in. He asks if the rumor is true. Did Seok really fight 20 guys at once? The blonde scoffs. Nope, he corrects him. It was actually 30. That number leaves Young Chan speechless. Stunned, he literally forgets to breathe for a second. The brown-haired guy then explains. Apparently, some street thugs were messing with Yona Shin, so Seok stepped in and took every single one of them out. He says it started with 10 guys, but they kept calling backups. By the time the 30th guy hit the floor, Seok was still going strong. Walked away without a single scratch, leaving 30 unconscious thugs scattered on the street like trash. Young Chan then asks about another rumor, the one where Seok caught the kidnappers who snatched Yona. He heard the guys behind it were all retired special forces. The blonde just confirms it. Yeah, the story about Seok taking down the kidnappers. It's probably true, too. He insists that our boy Jin doesn't stand a single chance. Not against Seok. That guy is on a completely different level. Honestly, it's kinda hilarious how teenagers in these Korean manhwas are always taking down entire gangs single-handedly. It makes the actual government and all the law enforcement agencies look like they're completely useless. Just wasting taxpayer money, right? Anyway, our boy is walking down the hall when he stops. Dead in his tracks because he's come face to face with Seok. No time is wasted. Seok gets straight to the point. What are you doing here? Confused, our boy has no idea what he's even talking about. So Seok simplifies the question for him. Why are you lying about who you are? Okay, here we go. He then mentions he heard Jin had something to do with Jiyu and Heejin Kim moving away. Jin clarifies immediately. Sure, he had beef with Jiyu, but he had nothing to do with them leaving town. And that's when Seok drops the bomb. He checked with the school Jin supposedly attended overseas. Their response, they've never even heard of him. Oh, it is ON. Things are heating up, but before Jin can respond, the scene cuts away to Dean. She's approached by Yona, that beautiful girl from earlier. After a moment, the two of them are catching up, and Dean mentions she had no idea Yona was back in Korea. Yona explains she just transferred in yesterday. And get this, she's in her brother's homeroom class. Dean's eyes go wide. Yona then points out that she never remembers Dean ever mentioning a brother. And Dean explains, everyone thought her brother died in the same car crash that killed her parents 10 years ago. Let that sink in. They only found out he was alive about 6 months ago. The scene suddenly flashes back to the past. Dean had just gotten home to find her grandfather totally frozen. Just holding the phone, tears are streaming down his face as he delivers the news. Jin is alive. The words hit Dean like a ton of bricks. Absolutely stunned, and that's how she learned her brother was still alive. Back in the present, Yona asks the million-dollar question, why didn't anyone know about him for all those years? Dion explains that Jin lost his memory and couldn't reach out. She says the crash wiped his memories, and he only just started remembering things. Someone helped them track him down, but Yona, you can tell she isn't buying it. Dion insists Jin only has faint memories of having a grandfather and a sister. After this little interrogation, Yona puts on a pleasant smile. She comments that their grandfather must have been thrilled to get his grandson back. Dion says their grandfather is definitely overjoyed. She explains that after the call, he cried for hours straight. He even took time off work just to enroll in some cooking classes. He wanted to master his Korean cooking, thinking Jin missed out on it. Yona remarks their grandpa must really love his grandkids. Dion smiles, agreeing that he absolutely does, but then Yona hits her with it. A serious question, are you absolutely sure Jin is your brother? Dion looks surprised for a second but confidently says yes, Jin is her brother. She even says they did a DNA test just to be certain. Our girl then flips the question, asking why Yona is so interested in her brother. That question catches Yona completely off guard. She doesn't know what to say. Almost frantically, she asks if her brother has a girlfriend. Now let's cut back to our boy. He asks Seo Akju what on earth he's talking about. Seo Akju just repeats his question, asking why this school is so important. Important enough for our boy to forge his records just to get in. Jin fires back, asking if he's being accused of having fake records. Seo Akju confirms it, saying they have to be fake. He claims his research shows Jin never lived in that city or attended that school. Our boy then calmly asks for proof, reminding him that accusations need evidence. And yeah, you can see Seo Akju is totally stumped on how to answer that. He found the inconsistencies by digging around and talking to people overseas. But he has no solid, tangible proof to show for it. He's actually amazed by how Jin is handling this without even flinching. Jin finally asks the big question, why is Seo Akju running a background check on him? The bodyguard explains that he can't just stand by and watch a suspicious kid. Not when that kid might be a potential threat to his mistress. A heavy silence falls between them until our boy finally speaks. He simply says that he came back home. Seo Akju is baffled by the vague answer. So Jin clarifies that he was asked why he came here. And his answer is simple. He returned from overseas for his family. With that, our boy turns to leave, but Seo Akju just stares after him. He's thinking that since he already knows the records are forged, it's only a matter of time. A matter of time before he uncovers Jin's real identity. Trust me, this is far from over. Once class starts, we see Jae Hyung totally absorbed in his video games. Meanwhile, the blondie is just idly scrolling through his phone. Our boy Jin notices that both Seo Akju and Yona are missing from class. He's impressed by how quickly the two transfers dug up so much info on him. When the bell rings, the usual bullies approach Young Chan to play some games. They invite Jin to join them, but he turns them down flat, mentioning it's his grandpa's birthday. So the bullies decide to hang out by themselves, and Young Chan is totally fine with that. Meanwhile, we're back with Black Beauty, where Seo Aju is breaking down the situation for her. He's convinced Jin faked all his records and is even questioning the DNA test's authenticity. Seo Akju then reveals his research dug up some pretty heavy stuff about Jin's sister, Dawn. Apparently, she's been getting brutally bullied by Jae Soo Kim and his sister for the last 2 years. When Yona asks how bad it was, Seo Aju says it's bad enough to make anyone wonder how she even survived all this time. He explains that the videos of her assault weren't widely publicized, but he's pretty sure that what she went through was just as horrific. Yona is completely floored and can't believe how messed up kids can be these days. Seo Oku adds that Jin has already taken down Gizu Kim and his crew twice to save her. Yona actually chuckles, thinking there's something kinda sweet about her long-lost brother showing up to destroy her bullies. Especially since her own siblings seem to only want to get rid of her. Now pay attention. because this is where Yona starts putting the pieces together. She points out that if Jin really wanted to target her at school, it makes zero sense for him to be so obvious about it. A smart person would have stayed completely under the radar. Ko Aju agrees with her, noting that anyone with a real plan would have kept a low profile. Yona's mind starts racing again, and she asks if Jin has some other motive, something related to Dahan's family. And that's when she brings it up, the insurance money. Okay, I know what you're thinking. But get this, the grandpa received the money, never used it, and let it grow for years. He even returned the share he got for Jin's supposed death since he's alive, but a huge amount is still left. So yeah, there's a chance he might be after that fortune. Yona instantly connects the dots. Realizing if Jin is after the money, then that means Dahan might be in danger from her own brother. The scene shifts back to the grocery store where our duo is shopping. And as you'd expect, Jin is getting a ton of attention from all the girls. While they're looking around, June admits she's hesitant to ask, but her curiosity is just killing her. She desperately wants to know what his life was actually like after the crash. And here's the moment we've been waiting for. Our boy is quiet for a second, and she starts apologizing like crazy, saying he doesn't have to answer. But he just smiles, telling her it's okay. He begins his story, explaining he was so deeply traumatized he could barely think straight. He did absolutely anything to survive in a place where he didn't even know the language, working nonstop just to get by. The girl goes silent, just taking in this incredibly heavy story. Then she starts to giggle, asking if he was too busy to get a girlfriend. He nods, laughing along with her. She then reveals her surprise that he's in the same homeroom as Yona, something Yona had mentioned to her. Jin is shocked to hear that and immediately asks if she knows her. Dae explains that Yona was incredibly nice to her before she left for the US. Seeing her again today was a happy reunion, capped off with a playful grin from Daeyeon. She reveals that Yona even asked if Jin has a girlfriend. And of course, our boy's reaction is pretty much what you'd expect. Now, stick with me here. Later, back at home, the birthday celebrations are in full swing. As the siblings present their grandpa with a gift, as he unwraps it, he finds a high-quality wallet. His face just lights up with joy. He's genuinely touched, but also feels a little guilty. Knowing their tight budget, he thinks they must have spent far too much. But his granddaughter just gives him a warm, reassuring smile. She tells him they had more than enough to get him something nice. And besides, it wasn't too expensive. The old man's hands tremble with happiness as he holds the wallet. His voice thick with emotion, he says the greatest gift was one he already received, the day Jin came back home safe and sound. Nothing could ever top that. Suddenly, the sharp ring of a phone cuts through the moment. Daeyeon rushes to her room to answer it. And while she's chatting away, Jin quietly tries to eavesdrop. That's when he overhears his sister mention she's heading out to the convenience store for a bit. Their grandpa questions why she's going out so late. And it turns out she's meeting Yona, who stopped by for a quick chat, and just like us, Jin definitely knows something is off. Later that night, he's digging deep on his computer, trying to uncover everything about SW Corporation, Yona's family company. He's trying to figure out why Yona seems so interested in him, and why they'd run a background check on a random transfer student. Jin thinks back on his conversation with Seaju when suddenly, a call from his grandfather breaks his focus. When he steps into the living room, his grandpa says he's heading out for a little while, too. Jin asks if he's going after Daeyeon, and the old man kind of agrees, adding that he just needs some fresh air. Jin smiles. He tells his grandpa to stay put, offering to go check on her instead. But the old man insists on going out himself. Jin then reminds him about the early job he has in the morning, and with that, our boy finally decides to head out on his own. Meanwhile, we see both girls chatting away about their studies and other things. Yona shares her experiences from studying abroad and suggests that Daeyeon consider going overseas as well. In response, Daeyeon admits she's never really thought about it. When Yona asks why, Daeyeon explains that it costs a lot and she would have to be away for years, meaning she couldn't be with her grandpa. Yona finds this a bit strange, so Daeyeon explains further. She doesn't want her grandpa to be all alone, especially since his health hasn't been the best lately. Still, she's so grateful that her brother is always around now because his presence really helps her feel better. Yona is having a hard time bringing up the real reason she came. Daeyeon seems to trust her so much, she's not sure how to bring it up without causing problems. Now pay attention, we flash back to Seoju telling Yona that someone from the supposed overseas school confirmed that Daeyeon's brother never attended. They even looked at his photo and verified he was never a student. Plus, the current resident at his fake address gave solid proof that he never lived there. Seoju is also checking out some other leads, leaving Yona in a tough spot. Model, alright, stick with me, because we're about to watch this whole conspiracy start to unravel. Yona knows they have proof the records were faked, but Seoju hits her with a reality check. They still can't actually prove he isn't Daeyeon's real brother. Yona's worried. The entire story of his missing decade is a lie, especially now that she's living with him. It's a massive deal that she can't just ignore. She feels Daeyeon has the right to know the truth about the records. But in the present moment, Yona is struggling to even bring the topic up. It's the whole reason she's here, but the words just won't come out. Just as Dahun mentions how nice it is to be chatting like this again, we see our boy Jin making a beeline straight for the two of them. Seoju immediately steps in his way, but Jin just tries to walk right past him. The newcomer isn't having it and tells him to stop right there. In his mind, he's sure Jin must be here because he's afraid they're about to expose everything. So he blocks our boy's path again, insisting the girls are just catching up. He asks Jin to give them some time alone, and then, out of nowhere, now watch this, a Volkswagen comes barreling towards them at full speed. Before anyone can react, the car slams into both of them, knocking them down like pins. They crash to the ground as the car screeches to a halt right where the girls are sitting. Jin struggles to get up, and it's obvious he's been seriously injured. Especially his head. As he tries to focus through the haze, his eyes widen. He spots some shady guys jumping out of the van, trying to abduct both girls. Without a second thought, Jin takes off sprinting like a madman. But it's useless. The kidnappers have already grabbed them, and there's no way he can outrun a car. They're left behind, watching helplessly. They immediately turn on each other, grabbing each other by the collars in pure rage. But after a few heated words, they both realize neither one of them is behind this. Okay, let's be real. We all knew they weren't the real culprits, right? They let go. The black-haired guy immediately whips out his phone and calls SW Corporation Security. He urgently reports that Yona has been kidnapped and tells them to track her down now. Meanwhile, Jin just starts walking away, and Seoju quickly stops him. He demands to know where he's going, still suspicious he's involved. Jin just snaps back that he doesn't have time to argue about it. Seoju points out that SW Corporation Security is already on the case. He says Jin needs to stick with him until they can confirm his identity, but our boy makes it clear he's going to find his sister, with or without his help. And if Seoju wants to follow him, he's more than welcome to try. Seoju starts to get the feeling that maybe, just maybe, Jin is innocent. Then our boy suddenly stops and asks him if he brought his car. The scene cuts to the loud, neon-soaked entertainment district of the city. Inside a pub, a man called Mr. Chaw is kicking back, enjoying a cigarette. Just then, one of his lackeys says someone is here to see him. When Mr. Chaw turns around, he sees Jin standing there. Then the scene shifts. And you and I are about to meet a major player, a regal-looking woman at SW Corporation. You can tell she's Yona's sister, just as gorgeous, with the same flowing black hair. Suddenly, an assistant bursts into the room, and the woman looks up, alarmed. A bit annoyed by this sudden interruption, wanting to know why he didn't even bother to ask permission before just barging in. The assistant gets right to it. Yona has been kidnapped. The news is a shock, but surprisingly, the lady doesn't seem all that bothered by it. In fact, a faint smile starts to form on her face as she thinks that the rumors must be true after all. Not quite sure what she means by that, but we'll roll with it. She then asks if their grandfather is still dead set on going after the company. The assistant admits he isn't sure. So she lines back, hoping he keeps pushing them without backing down, because that means Yona will eventually die. And yep, she's definitely looking forward to that. All right, let's cut back to the pub and pick up with our main character meeting Cha, with Seokju tagging along beside him. It looks like Seokju already knows Cha, recognizing him from their database and wondering how our boy got mixed up with a gangster like this. Cha gets straight to the point, asking our guy what he wants. Jin's response is simple: he needs intel. Cha just lights up another cigarette and scoffs, asking why he should ever bother helping him. Our boy cuts right to the chase, revealing the granddaughter of Saw Corporation has been taken. That's a piece of news Cha definitely did not see coming. Still, he brushes it off fast, saying it's not their problem. They don't touch cases like this because tangling with Saw Corporation is a one-way ticket to trouble. Our boy presses, asking if Cha has any leads. But the mafia boss makes it clear he has no reason to share a single thing, especially after the mess our hero put him in. But here's the part that changes everything. Our boy reveals his younger sister was also taken along with Saw's granddaughter. Cha suddenly realizes what a tight spot he's in. Because messing with our boy's sister is like going after John Wick's dog. Both are equally fatal mistakes. So he starts talking, mentioning some guys speaking broken Korean were asking around for untraceable warehouses. They were also looking for burners, cars, and a few extra hands for a job. The money was good, but he turned them down, knowing that kind of trouble doesn't just wash away. He adds that he heard another crew took the job. And the only thing he knows is they're operating out of Incheon. That's all the info he has. It wouldn't be a shock if Seoku had already pieced together who's behind all this. Meanwhile, our boy turns to leave after a quick thanks. But the mafia boss suddenly tosses his phone over, telling him to save his number. Jin looks back, completely clueless as to why he would need it. The mafia boss gets a little annoyed, clarifying he'll need it to call him once he finds out more about that warehouse. With that, our boy starts punching in the digits. He also asks if the bike parked outside belongs to Cha. Cha knows exactly what our boy plans to do with it, and you can see the hesitation on his face. But of course, our guy takes the heavy bike and before speeding off, tells Seoku to figure out his own ride because he's taking this one. Seochu immediately questions if he's really going to trust this shady half-baked info and chase them down based on just that. Now pay attention, this is where our hero's logic hits hard. He explains he doesn't have a second to waste. Yona will probably be fine until the kidnappers get their money, but there's no telling what they'll do to his sister. All right, stick with me here, because you're about to see just how cold and calculated our main character can be. Seokju can tell he's a lightning-fast thinker. He tells Jin that he's on board. He's already passed the info to his security team and will follow him by car. Jin just gives an ice-cold response, telling Seokju he can do whatever he wants. With that, he puts on his helmet, revs the engine, and speeds off into the streets. The scene then cuts back to the girls, where we see Dae starting to wake up. She has a splitting headache, and as she gets her bearings, Yona quickly speaks. She apologizes, saying it's probably her fault Dae got caught up in all this. Dae's mind races, piecing together what happened, and she's hit with a wave of shock. She remembers they've been kidnapped, and Yona sadly confirms her worst fears. She didn't expect this to happen so soon after returning to Korea, and just then, the kidnappers arrive. Yona coldly asks them just why they've been taken. One of the goons snaps at her to shut her mouth, saying it'll all be over soon. Of course, it doesn't take her long to figure out what these scumbags are after. They're planning to use her as leverage against her grandfather. One of them speaks up. The lackey asks the boss what they should do with Dei, who was just extra baggage. She was only there because she was with Yona. The boss makes a chilling decision. He calls her useless and orders his men to get rid of her. Now watch how Yona reacts. She immediately speaks up, insisting they won't lay a single finger on Dei. The boss scoffs, but Yona threatens to bite her own tongue and bleed to death. That would make her completely useless to them as a bargaining chip. The mafia boss finds it hilarious she'd risk her life for someone she barely knows. He even taunts her, urging her to go ahead and try biting her tongue. Well, this guy should have been way more careful with his words. Because Yona doesn't hesitate for a second, biting down hard as blood pours from her mouth. The boss screams in surprise, while the other lackey just watches in stunned silence. Yeah, you saw that right. This girl has nerves of absolute steel. The boss stands up, telling her that her guts just bought her some time. The lackey asks for the next move. The boss tells them to deal with Dei later. He instructs them to gag Yona's mouth so she can't make any more trouble. Then we flash back to our boy and Seokju, who have just arrived at the location. Mr. Cha's intel was spot on. Seokju points out that the place looks legit. SW Security was able to track the minivan's footage right to this area. As Jin starts to move in, Seokju tells him to stop and wait for backup. He's sent their coordinates to SW Security, and they should be arriving soon. But our boy reminds him that Dei doesn't have much time. They need to be quick. No room for debate. They move forward and spot a group of goons patrolling the area. Suddenly, Jin leaps on one of the guards from behind, moving like a shadow. He gets him in a chokehold, and the lackey quickly loses consciousness. Our boy quietly drags him into the darkness, adding him to a growing pile. A pile of other goons he's already taken care of. Seokju is also helping out. And he's completely blown away by Jin's skill at taking down enemies so silently. He's so impressed, he just has to ask Jin who the hell he is. Jin just casually replies that he's an average student at their school. Yeah, right. The scene then shifts to SW Corporation, where we finally meet the big boss himself. The man in black is giving his report, and trust me, the kidnappers aren't messing around. Their demand, SWC Corp has to cancel their newest contract. If they don't respond within 1 hour, or if they refuse to play ball, they execute Ms. Yona. The old man asks for security's ITA. The agent confirms SW Security will reach Yona's location in 50 minutes. Meanwhile, back at the kidnappers' hideout, a couple of goons are chatting. They're getting curious about who hired them and why this kidnapping is so important. One reminds the other that the boss was clear about it being none of their business. Their only job is to follow the orders they were given. But just then, one of them gets a hard smack to the head and completely crumples. He turns to see Jin, who, and you gotta see this, has already taken out the other guy. With the goons handled, Jin asks his partner for a quick body count. Seokju confirms that the guy he left behind makes 5 total on his end. Jin does a quick mental calculation. That's 14 guys down. The enemy is well funded. Seokju is absolutely stunned that Jin managed to handle 9 guys all by himself. He barely managed to take down 5. Jin grabs one of them by the collar. He demands to know who's pulling the strings, but the goon just sighs. He swears they don't really know. Apparently, this kind of thing just happens sometimes. It's even happened back when they were operating in America. He just never thought it would pop up again so soon after they got back to Korea. He feels he messed up. Jin points out the obvious. The real mastermind must be with Yona right now. That settles it. He's pushing deeper into their base of operations. But first, Jin turns and asks Seokju if he's going to be okay. Okay about what? Jin reminds him about the van that ran him over earlier. But Seokju just shrugs it off, saying, our boy should worry about his own leg. Suddenly, a voice shouts out, wondering where all the lookouts have gone. Another one jokes that maybe they all went for a bathroom break at once. But then a third voice questions why they would all go at the same time. As they walk forward, they spot their downed comrades lying unconscious on the floor. Before the confused goons can even react, Jin delivers a brutal knee smash right to the face. He then turns to the mustached goon, grabbing him by the wrist. A savage kick shatters the guy's leg, followed by a vicious smack to the head. And just like that, both of them are out cold. Jin decides they should split up. But before they part ways, Seokju calls out to him. As Jin turns around, Seokju says that once they get out of this mess, he owes Jin a formal apology. Back with the boss, he hears the chaos outside and tells his men to go check. We can see the women, gagged with cloth to keep them from making any noise. As Jin moves deeper, he runs into another lackey, this one wearing a mask. The masked man says he's seen pictures of Seokju, and he knows for a fact that this kid definitely isn't him. He demands to know how he got in. Jin stays completely silent, quickly realizing these are the guys in charge. The masked man orders his lackey to just get rid of the brat. And just as Jin is about to take out the trash, the scene cuts away. We're with Seokju now, who's sneaking through a storeroom, looking around. And that's where he finds both women tied up. Thankfully, no one else is in sight. All right, let's dive right back in. He figures they're all hunting for Jin and slips over to the girls. He yanks the mask off Yona's face, and she immediately asks if the security team has arrived. Seokju tells her they're on the way, but Yona's just stunned, asking how he even found them out here. And that's when the mafia boss chimes in with a smug look on his face. He's absolutely thrilled to hear the security team isn't showing up anytime soon. The boss sizes him up, saying he must be Seokju from SW Corporation. Apparently he's heard a lot about him. He adds that this Brad has been a real pain, always lurking around Yona and messing up all their plans. The boss admits he has no idea how Seokju found this place. But he's sure it was a stupid move to come here all alone. Then one of the goons suddenly lunges straight at Seokju. But our guy easily sidesteps the attack and throws a punch of his own, however this lackey. And here's where Seokju realizes this isn't just some street thug. He dodges and counters instantly. This guy's on another level from the goons outside, and he's having a tough time keeping up. But then bam, Seokju lands a brutal hit and follows it up with a devastating gut punch, leaving the thug completely doubled over in agony. To finish it, Seokju delivers a heavy leg swing. And the lackey finally looks like he's out for the count, but just when you think it's over, the thug tries one last desperate swing. But Seokju shuts him down with a devastating knee to the back. And with that, the guy finally starts to crumble. The scar-faced boss notes he knew Seokju was trained from a young age, but not this good. Even the two girls are completely stunned by what they're seeing. But the mafia boss isn't here to play fair. With that, his lackey pulls out a knife and starts slashing wildly at Seokju, landing several nasty cuts. The boss just grins under his mask, mocking him for fighting empty-handed, which makes a whole lot easier for them. The lackey charges again, dagger in hand, swinging left and right like an absolute psycho. Seokju does his best to dodge, but he's still taking deep cuts, slowing him down. He's struggling, and now the boss pulls his own dagger. You and I both know this is bad. He starts juggling it, clearly enjoying himself as he eyes the girls. The second Seokju sees this, he knows Dion is in deep trouble. The poor girl is already terrified, imagining the absolute worst. And before Seokju can even react, the bastard throws his dagger straight at her, going for the kill. But at the last second, Jonna leaps in front of Dion. And just as the dagger is about to hit, Seokju dives in front of them both, taking the blade right in his back. The boss just scoffs, calling him a pitiful bastard who's only good for the empty praise people give him. He then orders his men to leave Yona and kill the other two. His men immediately agree, moving forward to carry out the order, but then everyone hears the door creak open. And there he is. Now that's the entrance we've been waiting for, Jin. He's already taken down all the goons outside, leaving them scattered on the ground. Meanwhile, back at the club, Gangster Cha is getting the latest update from his men. They tell him the Gasong cartel is behind the abduction, and Cha is absolutely stunned. He can't believe the stupid mistake the Gasong cartel made by getting involved with both Jin and SW Corporation. It was a disaster waiting to happen. The cartel's #1 rule: never dig into your client's business before a job. One of the goons asks Cha why he helped Jin out, pointing out that Jin is the one who cornered them and exposed all the dirt they had on the Kim family. The very secrets they'd been protecting for years. Cha just lets out a heavy sigh, saying he had no other choice. He claims he's just an old man who couldn't possibly fight a monster like Jin. And they can't just get revenge on him, especially since the Kim family messed with the kid first. The goon argues back that they didn't have to help Jin either. Cha pauses for a moment, then lets out a small chuckle. Admitting he was forced to step in the moment he learned Jin's sister had been kidnapped. And speaking of which, back at the hideout, Jin makes his grand entrance. Let's watch this unfold. The lackey leader demands to know who he is, while Yona is frozen in shock. Dion can't believe her brother is here, and when she says his name, the mafia boss overhears everything. The boss absolutely loses it, bursting into hysterical laughter. He thinks it's hilarious that he kidnapped a girl, and now her cute little brother is here trying to be the hero. Meanwhile, Jin just looks at his sister and asks if she's okay. Dion breaks down, tears streaming down her face as she begs him to just run away. Seeing the two siblings dragged into this mess because of her, Yona is completely heartbroken. She screams at the leader, promising to cooperate fully if they just let everyone else go. But the mafia boss just snaps back, and why would I do you any favors? Yona goes silent. She has no cards left to play. Sioku, beaten on the ground, just stares at Jin with a look of pure amazement. Even in a situation this insane, Jin doesn't even flinch. Finally, the lackey leader gives the order to his goons, take Jin down. He says they've wasted enough time, it's time to end this, now pay close attention here. One of the thugs steps forward, dagger in hand, ready to strike Jin down. But before he can even move, Jin deflects the attack, grabs his wrist, and drives the man's own dagger straight into his chest. The mafia boss is completely stunned by the sudden turn of events. Siaju watches in shock. Even Dion is blown away by her brother's skill, and he quickly tells her to close her eyes. The girls immediately shut their eyes tight. Jin then slashes the thug, leaving deep, bloody wounds all across his body. Blood goes flying as the lackey collapses to the ground, covered in his own blood. Yona is still trying to process what just happened. It's all way too much. You and I aren't the only ones in awe. Saokju realizes Jin isn't just swinging a knife around like a maniac. He expertly severed the man's muscles and ligaments to completely neutralize him. The mafia boss is also amazed to see this, commenting that Jin doesn't seem like a brother at all. More like a professional bodyguard, Jin just keeps advancing toward him. The boss immediately takes back his last statement. He admits Jin has to be more than just a bodyguard, because no normal kid could wield a knife like that and maintain such an ice-cold gaze. But he brushes it off. He says it doesn't matter anyway, because he's still going to kill him. He swings his dagger, but my guy. All right, stick with me as we jump right into this brutal showdown. Jin ducks with lightning speed as the boss swings wildly left and right. The boss lunges, but Jin blocks the attack with just one hand, countering instantly. The boss is quick, though, stepping back just in time to dodge the hit. They engage in a deadly dance of blades, each strike more vicious than the last. But this time, Jin's blade finds its mark, slicing clean through the boss's hand. Leaving it completely useless, the boss, in pain and disbelief, demands to know who Jin really is, but our guy stays silent, his expression unreadable. He's just preparing for the next round, and the mafia boss doesn't hesitate. He charges at Jin again, This time, Jin effortlessly snatches his wrist. And with one quick motion, he slashes right through the boss's other hand. After landing a few more brutal cuts, Jin follows up with a crushing punch. The blow sends him staggering back with a nose that's now a bloody mess. Now enraged and desperate, he grabs a gun, and you know this changes things. But before he can even pull the trigger, Jin throws his dagger with deadly accuracy. It slams into the boss's shoulder, causing him to scream out in pure agony. Jin seizes the moment, launching himself at the boss with lightning speed. He delivers a devastating slap right under the chin, sending him flying backward. Like a sack of potatoes, the mafia leader collapses, completely and utterly defeated. His pride and power are shattered. The others can only watch in stunned silence. As Jin stands tall, a total badass, his presence alone makes Yona and Seaju tremble. Jin steps forward, gently telling his sister it's okay to open her eyes now. And here's the moment that just hits different. She sees him standing right there. A reassuring smile on his battered face, he tells her he's here to take her home. Yona is shocked by his injuries and immediately places her hand over his wounds. She asks if he's okay, and Jin, with a warm smile, tells her he's fine. But despite the injuries, his calm words and comforting presence are too much for her. Her emotions just overflow, and she begins to cry, absolutely uncontrollably. Jin tries his best to comfort her, his own heart aching to see her so upset. Yona is deeply moved by the compassion Jin shows, observing them with admiration. The next day, the scene shifts to the SW Seoul Medical Center. Jin's sitting quietly. He's in the corridor, his handsome face catching the eye of a few passing nurses. His phone buzzes with a text from Jae Hyung, curious why Jin isn't at school. Jin simply replies that he's running an errand, then checks his other messages. He sees his friends excitedly talking about their hangout, teasing him for missing it. Jin smiles as he reads their messages, feeling a warm connection despite the distance. He leans back in his seat, his gaze just drifting around the quiet hospital corridor. His eyes fall upon a room directly across from him, marked with a specific sign. The sign simply reads Psychiatry Department. The scene then transitions to later that night. After Jin's intense battle with those thugs, the police and the authorities finally arrive. They begin rounding up all the criminals, taking every single one of them into custody. Meanwhile, doctors start tending to Jin's sister. Yona approaches Jin to talk. She tells him he needs to take his sister to the hospital, promising to cover the bill. Jin looks puzzled, asking why, since his sister doesn't seem to be physically harmed. And Yona explains something we all know: the deepest wounds are the ones you can't see. Even without visible injuries, the emotional trauma is hitting her hard. Which is why it's so important to make sure Dion gets the right kind of help. Her mom also mentions she recently found out about the harassment from Gizu and Hu Jin Kim. And while she's glad they got punished, for the victims, this whole nightmare is far from over. She explains that talking to a professional is probably the best thing for Dion after an experience that terrifying. Which is why we're not at an emergency room. We're right outside a psychiatrist's office. As Dion exits the room, she finds Jin and asks if he was waiting long. Jin just plays it cool, saying he got there just a few minutes ago, and asks what the doctor said. She tells him there's nothing seriously wrong, which is a huge relief. She'll need to come back for weekly sessions for a bit, but otherwise she's okay. Jin adds that his own injuries are nothing, just a few bruises. You can see the relief wash over her. She's just so glad he's all right. Jin's mind flashes back to how broken she was after the bullying, a painful reminder of what she's been through. She calls his name, and he snaps out of it, giving her a quick smile and asking what's up. She just smiles back, saying she forgot what she was going to ask, but you and I can both see it. She's holding back a serious question. The scene flashes back to her checkup. In the background, she can hear the soldiers talking amongst themselves. They're absolutely baffled that some kid managed to take down most of the kidnappers all by himself. To them, it makes zero sense. And in that moment, Dion is just as shocked as they are. She's burning with curiosity about Jin. How can he fight like that? What was his life like before he came back to Korea? But she just can't bring herself to ask him. As they walk down the hall, they bump right into Yana. The second Dion sees her, her face lights up. Yana immediately rushes over, asking how her therapy session went. Dion says it went fine and mentions she heard Yana paid for everything. She insists she really didn't need to do that for her, but Yana just waves it off, saying it's nothing, and reminds her friend she's the one who got her dragged into this mess in the first place, then gives her a sincere apology. Dion just laughs, telling her she's apologized enough. Besides, Yana was a victim too. And that's when Jin notices him, a huge bodyguard standing behind Yana. And the look on this guy's face is seriously intimidating, but even with that death stare, our boy Jin doesn't even flinch. Yana then turns to Jin, asking if he got checked out. Jin says he did, and Dion chimes in, saying she practically had to drag him there. He only agreed to go after she threatened to skip her own appointment if he didn't go with her. Dion then asks where Seoku is, and Yana confirms he's in the very same hospital. Dion gets super excited to see him and decides they have to visit before they leave. And while she's all smiles, you can tell Jin isn't nearly as thrilled about it. Still, they head over to Seoku's room, where Dion immediately thanks him for saving her from that blade. Seoku is a little thrown off by her sudden thanks, and just stammers that it was no big deal. She asks if he's doing better, and he confirms he's feeling a lot better now. Jin, meanwhile, is not loving this reunion one bit. His sister getting cozy with Seoku, he just stands there, totally silent and clearly uncomfortable. And trust me, we're not the only ones who notice. Even Yana and her bodyguard can tell Jin is deeply troubled. Dion wishes Seokju a quick recovery before they finally leave through the main doors. But once they're gone, the bodyguard is lost in thought, saying how hard it is to believe a scrawny-looking kid like Jin could take down so many opponents at once. It just doesn't add up. Jana just chuckles, admitting she was amazed too, but figured it wouldn't be a big deal to a seasoned pro like him. The bodyguard says it's not just about the numbers. Beating up a group of thugs is one thing, but there's something much deeper going on with our boy. He explains that Jin quietly and quickly took out over 10 guards, a feat that is anything but easy. Now pay attention, because here's where it gets absolutely wild. Jin didn't kill any of them, he simply made them unfit to fight. And based on the cuts from the two guys in the container, his knife skills are on another level entirely. Especially since those two were retired military. Not just some street thugs, it's obvious. Jin Yu is a highly trained professional with massive combat experience. And hearing this analysis, Seokju and Dean are completely floored. A little later, Dion catches up to Jin and quickly apologizes. Embarrassed that she always seems to need him to rescue her, but Jin tells her not to apologize. In fact, he says he should be the one thanking her. Dawn is confused, but Jin explains that because of her, he's starting to understand family. For the first time in his entire life, he put someone else's safety before his own, with no strings attached. It's a feeling he never had before coming to this country. He's finally getting what a real family means. And just as we get that wholesome moment, we see her again, the woman with the short black hair. She is almost certainly Yona's sister, and she looks absolutely devastated that Yona was rescued. Her reporter contact fills her in on the details, mentioning a suspicious rumor that's making the rounds. He says that while Seokju was key to the rescue, another student who went with him was even more incredible. She can't believe it, but the reporter confirms it. He says even the chairman himself has taken a special interest in this student. And yeah, we all know that student is our boy. The woman is shocked, wondering if there's any truth to these wild rumors. Meanwhile, Jin is back to his intense training, doing some hardcore pull-ups. As he's working out, Images of the men he fought flash through his mind. Lost in the moment, he doesn't hear Don knock on the door with a plate of fruit. While Dion snacks on some of the fruit, Jin walks in and asks his sister how she's feeling. She just tells him she's already answered that 1,000 times and that she's fine. After Jin sits, he can tell something is weighing on Dean's mind and asks what's wrong. She looks at him and says she doesn't hate him, not after seeing him fight so brutally. She tells him it doesn't change a thing about how she sees him. After all, he did all of that just to save her life, and she won't ask about his past. Dean's face turns serious, admitting she could never tell her grandpa about any of it. All the terrible things that went down at school, she just wasn't ready to talk about them. But now she feels like she can finally breathe, like she can open up about anything. And just then her phone rings. It's Yana. Dean grabs it and quickly heads to her room. A little later, we cut to Yana, sitting right across from Jin. She gestures for him to take a seat as well, and Jin sits down. He wastes no time, asking why she called him here. Yana says she wanted to apologize for putting Dean in such a horrifyingly dangerous situation. She knows she already apologized, but this time she wanted to say it face to face. She adds that Seokju will also come apologize once he's recovered. And on top of that, she wanted to thank Jin for saving her life, too. But Jin makes it crystal clear, he only went there to rescue Dion, not Yana. She just shrugs it off, saying it doesn't change the fact that he saved her. Jin cuts to the chase, asking if that's all she wanted to say. Yana admits there's more. She tells him they're officially stopping the investigation into his background. She hopes he's not too angry they were digging into his past. With a sigh, she explains she couldn't just ignore that all his documents were fake. Especially after that recent kidnapping attempt back in America. It raised way too many red flags for her. She's been a target since she was a kid. And she says that even though they never found out the truth behind his records, she's dropping the investigation for good. With that, Jin starts to leave. He says if there's nothing else, he's heading out, and Yana looks shocked. Wait a minute, she asks if he could just spare a couple of hours. Her grandpa really wants to meet him and thank him personally. But as Jin walks away, he replies there's no need, he wasn't there for her anyway. Yana is left speechless as Jin heads home through the dark, empty streets. But stick with me, this is where the night takes a very dark turn. As the camera zooms in, we see him. It's one of Mr. Cha's own men. The poor guy has been brutally shot in the gut, and it doesn't take long for our hero to recognize exactly who this is. The man is barely clinging to life. But he uses his last breaths to start screaming at Jin, blaming him for everything. He says their gang was already struggling after Jin exposed the Kim family. Then their boss helped Jin by giving up the Goon cartel's location. And that move stirred up a massive turf war between the two gangs. Now Mr. Cha's entire territory is under attack. All his friends are dead. The Gong cartel leader even paid a personal visit to Dushik Cha himself. And now we get to see how it all went down. Gang taunts Cha, asking why he won't give up. Why make a fool of himself in front of the few men he has left? But Cha just fires back, pointing out he sent most of his crew home for the weekend. Meanwhile, Gong brought his entire army of lackeys with him. Then another guy steps up, telling Cha he never should have messed with the Kim family. As if that wasn't bad enough, he had to go and tip off Gong's crew. Our gangster boss throws one last brutal verbal jab, and this time it works. Gong absolutely loses his cool, going completely ballistic at what Cha just said. You and I are about to see what happens when he furiously orders his men to charge. All right, stick with me here as Cha and his gang swarm in like a pack of wolves. But our beloved gangster is no pushover. He deftly ducks, letting a punch sail right past his face, and counters with a devastating blow. The attacker staggers back. Another lackey swings at him, but just ends up eating a brutal uppercut, collapsing to the ground in a pool of his own blood. Gosh grits his teeth in pure frustration while Cha keeps dropping these goons like they're nothing. But then a cheap shot, a hard jab with a stick from behind. He groans in pain but instantly recovers, throwing a punch that sends his assailant crashing down for good. And even though Cha manages to take out a ton of these guys, the sheer number of them is just overwhelming. It's clear that despite his insane skill, he can't take them all down this way. Now, watch this. Our gangster takes his stance, knowing full well he's cornered. He's furious that Gaon brought an entire army when he knew Cha didn't have most of his crew. Still, he can't help but crack a smirk thinking about our boy, wondering if he managed to save his little sister. And speak of the devil, Jin pulls up outside the club. The lackey on guard duty tells him to get lost, but Jin isn't taking orders tonight. He unloads a brutal kick on one of them, sending him slamming to the ground and leaving the other two shocked at his absolute audacity. He then gets off his bike as the last two goons try to swing at him. But Jin effortlessly catches one of their hands and delivers a vicious smash to his face, sending blood flying everywhere. The remaining lackey just tenses up at the sight and gets a heavy kick to the gut for his trouble. With both goons handled, he pushes deeper into the club, only to find a brutal scene of fallen bodies. As he advances, a group of arrogant thugs orders him to leave. But our boy is completely unfazed and just keeps walking toward them. One of the thugs steps forward, spewing some absolute nonsense, but our guy shuts him up with a single blow, dropping him to the ground and leaving the others utterly terrified. Despite that fear, the thugs recklessly charge him, and our boy starts delivering hell, taking them down one after the other. The scene snaps back to Gangster Cha, now completely gassed after dropping a dozen thugs. I know what you're thinking, how is this guy even standing? Gosh is absolutely furious, unable to process how Cha is holding his own for so long all alone. On the other hand, Gong's assistant feels a wave of relief that they only attacked Cha while he was by himself. Otherwise, it would have been a complete massacre. More lackeys charge at our gangster, but he quickly flattens the one right in front of him. Before he can react, though, he gets blasted with a devastating punch to the face. Cho roars and fires back, delivering a powerful punch with equal force. At this point, Cha is barely hanging on. Even Gosh has to admit that he's one tough bastard, and deserves some praise for the effort. Still, he makes it clear that Cha looks like he's at his absolute limit and should just give up. They'll even make it worth his while. Cha just spits out a mouthful of blood and asks why the hell he'd do that. Wiping the blood off his face, he decides he's going to finish what he started, no matter what it takes. We can tell the big boss is not impressed by this gutsy display, as the swarm of lackeys closes in around him. Trust me, you are going to want to see how this ends. Completely shaken by that bold statement, suddenly there's a huge commotion at the entrance, with one of the goons screaming their head off. Gosh, completely bewildered, asks what the hell is going on and why his men are screeching like that. They turn, seeing nothing at first, but then they hear footsteps. Out steps Jin. You should see the look on their faces. The whole crowd is stunned to see a kid here. Cha is just as shocked and immediately asks what the hell he's doing there. Jin just casually says he's here to return the motorcycle he borrowed. Cha was seriously not expecting to hear that kind of nonsense while they're basically surrounded by death. Meanwhile, Gosh's assistant just sneers when he realizes Cha knows this kid and orders his men to take Jin down too. One of the goons proudly steps up, walking toward our boy like he's about to scold a toddler. Cha warns them it would be better if they just left him alone. But the assistant isn't having it, insisting they can't let Jin go since he saw everything. Cha snaps back one more time, saying they should be praying to God that Jin is generous enough to let them go. The assistant has no idea what this idiot is talking about. But here it is, the wake-up call. Jin drops one of his guys with a single punch. He follows up with a kick that cracks another lackey's leg. Then a headbutt that sends a third one sprawling to the ground. Another thug tries to swing a bat at Jin from behind, But Jin snatches his hand and delivers a brutal smash to his face, leaving him a bloody mess. The bat hits the floor. Gosh is completely blown away, and you and I know why. Cha just smirks. He tells them it's their own fault for not listening earlier. He adds that even though he himself is tough, he wouldn't last a second against this kid. The big boss just screams at his lackeys to take Jin down. They charge at him, and as always, Jin effortlessly dismantles them, making them look like a bunch of amateurs. Getting impatient. The boss starts shouting at his men to stop getting beaten by a little punk. But just as he's about to bark another order, he goes dead silent, seeing Cha charging right at him. At this point, Gasheng is pretty sure his day is about to get a whole lot worse. A short while later, the boss and his entire crew are on the ground, looking like they've been eating dirt while Cha slumps down. Utterly wiped out, Jin walks over, and when Cha looks up, he sees the absolute wreckage. Bodies are scattered everywhere, with Jin standing over them all like a victor. Jin starts to walk out, casually saying that Cha has now paid his debt. Cha is in shock, still trying to process how this kid is still hung up on the same old thing after all this. He quickly asks if Jin saved his sister. Jin calmly replies that he did, and it was all thanks to Cha. The scene then shifts to a hospital room where one of Cha's guys suddenly jolts awake. He looks around and spots Cha on the other side of the room, all patched up but looking like he went through hell. The lackey is stunned to see his boss there. But Cha tells him to stop calling him that while they're in the hospital. Confused, the junior asks how he ended up here. Cha just says he got roughed up a bit and took a cab to get treated. The lackey then asks about Gosung and the rest of the guys. Cha with a he just shrugs, saying he took care of them all, but the junior simply can't believe it. Calling it total BS, the senior gets a little ticked off and asks why his junior would possibly think he's lying. The lackey figures it's probably because he's too embarrassed to admit that Gaung beat him down. Cha then asks if he happened to see Jin yesterday. The junior's eyes light up, confirming that yeah, he did. He explains that he got completely ambushed by the enemy team right as he was leaving the club. Wounded and desperate. He found our boy and started screaming at him. He charged at Jin, full of rage, but after one single hit, he blacked out and remembers nothing else. The boss calmly explains that Jin probably just knocked him out to get him to the hospital. Cha continues, saying that inside the club, he was totally overwhelmed by the sheer number of enemies. And that's when Jin appeared. Wiped them all out in seconds, and told him he'd paid his dues before just walking away. The lackey is blown away by this, thinking it's about the most badass thing he's ever heard. The senior has to agree, admitting that Jin is on another level. The lackey then asks his boss if he has any idea who this kid really is. The senior just points out that Jin claims to be an average teenager, so for now, they'll just have to take his word for it. Now, you and I know he's a legend, but watch this next scene. A football comes flying straight for Jin, and he catches it without even thinking. The referee immediately blows the whistle, handball. Everyone on the field is just stunned. His friend, completely annoyed, reminds him he's not supposed to grab the ball since he isn't the goalkeeper. Jin looks genuinely confused about why he's getting chewed out, but apologizes anyway. Suddenly, the bell rings and his friends call out, asking if he's free to hang since it's the only day. Yang Chan doesn't have after-school lessons, and they're all planning to hit up the arcade. Jin tells them to go on ahead, saying he'll meet them there later on because he has to walk his sister home first. His friends are a little baffled, asking if he's back on babysitting duty again. Jin just explains that she hasn't been feeling well lately. The blondie agrees to save a spot for him. Meanwhile, Dayan is just getting ready to leave class. She's thinking about making some kimchi stew for Jin since he liked it so much last time. But then she worries it might be too spicy and considers making a milder soybean paste stew instead. And that's when she hears a commotion from the other girls in her class. They're all crowded by the window, absolutely swooning over Jin. One girl thinks he's hot, another is already planning their wedding. The girls even turn to Dihun, asking if her brother is seeing anyone. Dihun is caught completely off guard by their thirsty comments about her brother, so she hesitates for a second before saying he's not dating anyone. As the girls scramble back to the window, Dae lets out a faint smile, clearly happy that her brother is so popular with the other girls. Walking outside, she wonders why Jin doesn't have a girlfriend yet. Maybe he just isn't interested in girls. Suddenly, she hears voices nearby and sees Jin with his friends. Startled, she quickly tries to pull herself together and greet them politely. One of his shy friends just blushes at how cute she is and manages a little wave back at her. All right, let's jump right in as the squad decides to hit the game room. Once they're gone, Dihun asks Jin if he's going to hang out with them. He confirms he is, but says he needs to swing by his house first. When she asks if it's because of her, Jin brushes it off, saying he just forgot something. But she insists she's fine walking home alone, pointing out it's still daytime. Jin holds his ground, claiming he really does need to grab something from home. She reminds him he doesn't have to go out of his way for her. Just like she told Yona when she offered a security escort, all Dihun wants is a normal life. Jin falls silent for a moment before finally agreeing to her request. He promises to do as she says, but suggests they could still walk home together sometimes. Dune pouts that he worries way too much, but Jin admits it's not just worry. He genuinely enjoys walking with her, and with that, she finally agrees to it. But as they're walking, Jin freezes in his tracks when he spots her. Now watch closely, it's that same dark-haired woman who we're betting is Yona's sister. She tries to greet Jin, but he gives her the complete cold shoulder, no response. June, meanwhile, is totally clueless about who this mysterious woman is. The woman then fakes surprise, pretending to only just notice Dihun there. With an over-the-top concerned look, she says Dihun must be the girl who suffered because of Yona. Dihun is completely lost by now and asks the woman who she is. She introduces herself as Yona's cousin, here to thank Dune for her help. She even offers to buy her dinner, but Jin flatly shuts her down. He states that Yona already thanked him personally, so there's no need for this. The woman is taken aback by his directness, but she isn't giving up yet. She tries to keep the conversation going, saying she has a business proposition. Something that could benefit the both of them. Again, Jin shoots her down. Not interested, he says, before turning and walking away from the conversation. He leaves this arrogant woman absolutely fuming. But before he's totally gone, June gives a quick polite bow. Meanwhile, the woman is practically shaking with rage. Her guard asks if he should drag Jin back by force, but she tells him no. It looks like her ego took a much bigger hit than we thought. She is absolutely seething with fury. Next up, we change scenes. Okay, let's switch gears. We're in the gaming room where the guys are totally locked in. While they're all lost in the game, Yang Chan realizes nature is calling. As he makes his way down the hall, he accidentally bumps into some random punk. This guy instantly gets in his face, yelling at him to watch where he's going. Poor Yang Chan is terrified, and he quickly stammers out an apology. But the jerk isn't having it. He winds back his hand to slap Yang Chan. But just in the nick of time, Jae Hyung appears and saves his friend from the hit. Jae Hyung struts over, cool as ever, telling the punk to chill out. He says there's no need to make a big deal out of a little shoulder bump. He spits out his lollipop, then locks eyes with the guy, staring him down. He warns him not to mistake them for a bunch of pushovers he can bully. And you can feel it right here. The punk's confidence is completely shattered by Jae Hyung's glare. Our guy keeps up the pressure, demanding to know what the hell he's staring at. Thoroughly intimidated, the punk finally gives up and backs off with his crew. Whatever pride he has left, Jae Hyung just lets out a puff of air, looking completely satisfied with himself. Meanwhile, Yang Chan is still reeling, and you can see him trying to make sense of what just happened. I mean, it's a huge shock, considering this is the same guy who used to bully him. And now he's the one coming to his rescue. Orange Head cuts in, telling them they better get a move on or Hyukjin will start losing his mind. So they head off, but Yangchen still can't quite believe his eyes. That this guy of all people just saved him. When they finally return, Hyukjin asks what took so long for a bathroom break. Orange Head explains some idiot was messing with Yangchen. Hyukjin's interest is immediately piqued, and he asks who it was. Orange Head says the guy was repping a Gosok Tech uniform. Blondie then turns to Yang Chan, checking if he's all right. The kid just says he's fine. Because nothing really happened since Jae Hyung stepped in right on time. Now here's where things get interesting. Just as they're about to start the game, a whole squad of thugs bursts into the room, and yep, it's the dude from earlier. He brought his entire crew back for revenge after that humiliation. Hyukjin is completely zoned into his game, not even noticing the guys gathering over his shoulder. When he finally glances up, he sees a wall of goons towering over him, and their leader just tells him to step outside. Now, both Hyukjin and Jae Hyung realize things are about to get serious. And Yang Chan is shaking, terrified of what's about to happen. Once they're outside, Yang Chan is trembling all over again, feeling completely responsible for getting them into this mess. The punk from before starts running his mouth, claiming Orange Head was all talk and no action, saying it'll be easy to wipe the floor with him and his friend, but our boy doesn't back down. He fires right back, pointing out how the guy ran off scared earlier, only to come back with his whole crew in tow. The gang leader doesn't appreciate that comment one bit and throws a wild punch at Orange Head. But Jae Hyung is faster, ducking clean under it and landing a brutal shot to the guy's face, putting him in his place. The leader staggers back and over on the side. Yang Chan is just panicking, convinced this is all his fault. That's when Jae Hyung speaks up, looking straight at his terrified friend. He tells him he has nothing to feel guilty about, because these bastards are the only ones who should be sorry, and not gonna lie, those words hit hard. Yang Chan's heart just melts, seeing his friend look so incredibly badass saying that. It's almost overwhelming. But then Hyukjin chimes in, pointing out that line is the exact same one he used a while ago, right down to the delivery. He jokes that Jae Hyung basically ripped him off. And now he feels like he needs to bleach his eyes after seeing his friend's copycat performance. Orange Head turns bright red, completely embarrassed, and admits that Hyukjin just looked so cool when he said it that the words got stuck in his head. He couldn't help but say them too. While the three of them are bickering, they seem to have forgotten they're in a standoff against an entire gang, completely distracted and not paying any attention to the actual threat. And just like that, the thugs charge. Trust me, the real fight is just getting started. Okay, let's jump right into the action, where Orange Head is holding his ground. The first thug that gets close eats a nasty kick to the gut, sending him reeling back. Another one swings, but our orange-haired hero isn't having it. He counters with a brutal blow that drops the guy instantly. Meanwhile, Yang Chan, who is definitely not a fighter, is basically having a panic attack on the sidelines. Moi Jyn, on the other hand, is in his element, wrecking goons left and right. He glances over at Yang Chan, telling him to stay back and just watch the show. Orange Head chimes in, saying that while Yang Chan is a pro gamer, this world is way out of his league, and they've got it handled. Yang Chan is just completely stunned by all this. He can't process it. They're fighting for him, and yet here they are, telling him to stay out of it. The thugs are already on the ground, whimpering after that beatdown. But our boys are starting to look gassed, feeling the strain of being so outnumbered. And now pay attention, because this is where everything flips. The pain is real. He knows he's screwed as the cocky one winds up for a knockout punch straight to his face. But before that fist can land, Yang Chan dives onto the guy's back, clinging on like his life depends on it. They both go crashing to the floor, with the thug trying to shove Yang Chan off him. But despite the terror, Yang Chan holds on tight. That's when Orange Head seizes the moment, swinging his leg for a devastating blow right to the cocky guy's skull. The impact is so raw it leaves Yang Chan teary-eyed. He's just witnessed a level of brutality he's never even imagined before. Orange Head stands over his opponent, looking like an absolute boss after that final, decisive kick. He glances down at the guy, who is clearly not getting up. But Yuk Jayan can't resist, teasing Orange Head about how Yang Chan had to step in and save him. Orange Head immediately gets defensive and embarrassed. Claiming he had it all under control, they turn to Yang Chan, who looks like he's about to cry. Orange Head's tone changes instantly, asking if he's all right. The timid kid quickly tells them he's fine, apologizing for dragging them into his mess. All right, let's switch gears. Our main character finally reaches the game room, only to find it completely deserted. He pulls out his phone, but nobody's picking up. Just then, he hears his name being called. He spins around to see his friends, who immediately tell him he missed all the fun. The two wannabe bullies start bragging about how they just took care of some Go-Tech guys. As they're walking up the stairs, they mention to Jin that he might not know these Go-Tech guys, but they're tough, just not tough enough for them. But when they walk into the gaming room, they freeze. The floor is littered with unconscious bodies. The lackeys are just staring, completely speechless, asking who on earth took down all these ghost tech guys. Our boy just casually explains he was looking for them and got jumped by this crew when they saw his uniform. And yeah, you and I are watching the exact moment it hits them. Our boy single-handedly took out this entire group of thugs. Later, after some fun at the arcade, the group decides to grab some food. The bullies even brought the same stuff Yang Chan always eats, but Orange Head totally forgot to get any drinks. He offers to run and grab some, and Yang Chan immediately offers to go with him. But Orange Head decides to handle it. As they start eating, Huck Jin is grinning, still hyped about how they wrecked those ghost tech goons, and honestly, we get it. Orange Head agrees, saying they came in trying to act tough, but ended up getting beaten like dogs. Meanwhile, our boy is just staring at his food, totally clueless. He watches Jae Hung tear off the plastic and pop the triangle out of the wrapper, and then he copies him, finally taking a bite. Mid-chew, he asks his friends, who actually started the fight anyway. Jae Hung explains one of the goons was messing with Yang Chun right outside the game room. And that kicked the whole thing off. Our boy turns to his quiet friend, asking if he's okay. The friend says he's fine, all thanks to Jae Hyung showing up right on time. Orange Head then decides to drop some advice, telling Yang Chan that in moments like that, he absolutely cannot back down. Yang Chan looks a little confused. Now pay attention, because this is some real-life advice right here. Orange Head says you can't flinch in front of a bully. You have to show you're ready for a fight, or they'll walk all over you the second they smell fear. Hukjin agrees, adding, you gotta show them you won't take their crap, or you're just a doormat. Yang Chan asks, but what if they actually hit me? Orange Head just shrugs. They're gonna try to hit you even if you're scared. Yang Chan worries they might just hit him harder. Orange Head admits it's possible, but points out that if you don't fight back, you're just a pushover forever, and that's way worse than taking a punch. Hukjin throws in his 2 cents, saying he's seen it work. Nobody wants to start a fight with someone who bites back. Bullies always go for the quiet kids who won't make a scene. Yang Chan stays silent. And you can see it clicking in his head. He's always been a target because he never stood up for himself. While they talk, our guy just keeps eating. Let that sink in. The scene shifts to his past, where instead of good food, he had some nasty-looking curry and a dry piece of bread. Back then, he had no choice but to eat whatever he was given. And to make it worse, the strong were always preying on the weak, snatching their food. One day, some arrogant guy demanded our boy's meal, but he wasn't having it, not even for a second. He fought back, and let's just say it was a gruesome, bloody mess. The memory makes him realize it's the same old story, the strong always trying to dominate the weak, both then and now. And that's when Yang Chan finally finds his voice. He says out loud that he doesn't like either of them. The two guys literally choke on their food, completely stunned. You and I just witnessed the exact moment the worm turns. Yang Chan says he hates them because they bullied kids in their class, including him. Orangehead looks genuinely confused and asks when they ever bullied anyone. He insists they were just joking. Nothing more, the blondie backs him up, saying they never physically hurt anyone or forced them to do their homework. Compared to monsters like Gizu Kim, they're practically saints. But Yang Chan isn't backing down. He says that even if they think they're just joking around or playing rough, to the person on the receiving end, it's still violence. The two bullies are just stunned into silence, not knowing how to respond to that. Yang Chan presses on, explaining that violence is violence, no matter how small. Small, telling them he despises their casual cruelty and lack of remorse. Once he's finished, he points out that they were the ones who told him to stand up for himself, so now he's laying it all on the table. Let's see how they take it. The bullies are completely stunned by Yang Chan's words. The blonde one is just speechless, admitting no one has ever called him out like that before. He never realized people saw their actions that way and just thought they were all joking around. The other bully agrees, saying they figured it was fine since they weren't nearly as bad as the other guys. Yangchen, still nervous, admits that he was surprised by how nice they seemed when they all hung out. He just guessed they didn't actually realize what they were doing was still a form of bullying. Feeling the guilt hit, Orangehead quickly apologizes. The blonde says sorry too, admitting they don't know how to fix it. But they at least want to apologize. On another note, our boy is still struggling with his food. He unwraps his rice ball, only for it to fall right onto the ground, and he's completely crushed. I mean, we've all been there, right? His friends don't know what to do, just yelling at him when he tries to eat the rice ball right off the dirty floor. Anyway, back in the city, we find ourselves returning to the SW Corporation. There we see the same woman who claimed to be Yona's cousin sitting at her desk. Suddenly, Yona bursts in, absolutely fuming, and shouts the woman's name, Jia. The smug woman just looks up and smiles. But before she says a word, Yona cuts her off with an icy tone, demanding to know if she met with Jin recently. Jia tries to play it cool, reminding Yona that she was the one digging into Jin's background because she was suspicious of him. Yona frustratedly admits that yes, she did investigate Jin, but she promised him that she would drop it for good. Now she's telling Jia to stop harassing our boy, too. But Jia just raises an eyebrow, reminding her what kind of world they live in, and yeah, you can see her point. Especially after the recent kidnapping attempt. She makes it crystal clear that they aren't taking any chances, and his background is a major concern. Yona insists that Jin wasn't involved in any of it, but Jia immediately cuts her off, saying that helping with one rescue mission doesn't make him trustworthy. Jia's manager chimes in, pointing out that Jin's very identity is a massive issue for the school. He stresses that an academy affiliated with SW Corporation can't just accept a student with a fake past. Making it clear they won't let this slide, Yona can only grit her teeth in anger while Jia just smirks with satisfaction. She then explains that they just might be receiving some good news very soon. Yona asks what she's talking about. The manager explains Jin's records were restricted, so they had to pull some strings with their higher-ups to get more information. Jia then looks at Yona with a challenging smile, asking if she's not curious about Jin's real identity. Yona firmly states she doesn't care, saying that Jin saved her and that's more than enough for her, but just then the telephone rings, grabbing everyone's attention. And you can just feel it, this is the moment. Jia's smirk widens as she says it's time for them to hear the news together. She answers the call, and the person on the other end has the info. As Yona waits, she's hoping the caller will finally give her some information on Jin's identity. But the voice on the other end says the higher-ups have decided SW Corporation will back off from any more digging into Jin's background. And trust me, This announcement leaves Ga looking pale as a ghost, and the guards are just as stunned. Her frustration boils over, and she starts screaming into the phone, demanding to know how they can just let this whole thing slide. The caller makes it crystal clear that given their long history between SW Corporation and the government, they've decided to look the other way. The caller explains that Jin is cut off from his family after an unfortunate plane crash, and is just a young man who's finally found his way back home. They stress that it's best to let him live his life in peace. The next day at school, look who it is. Yona walks in with her escort. And yeah, everyone's head turns, including our boys who are curious to see them back after all this time. Suddenly, Yona starts staring at them with this intense gaze, making Yang Chan super uncomfortable. She walks right up to him and asks a simple question, "Isn't Jin in school today?" Yang Chan, glancing around for his friend, says he was just here, but Jae Hong clarifies that he just got called to the office a few minutes ago. As Yona and her escort, Soju, get settled in, her escort reveals the chairman is at the school, right now. Yona is completely shocked to hear her grandfather is on campus and wonders why he didn't tell her he was visiting and if Jin might have gone to meet him. And in that office, we finally meet the old man we've been hearing so much about. He's thrilled to finally meet our boy in the flesh, especially since Jin actually turned down a meeting before, so he came himself to thank him for saving Yona. Our boy just says there's no need for thanks. He was only there to rescue his sister, and Yona just happened to be there as well. The old man acknowledges that he's aware, but he still wanted to express his gratitude for saving his granddaughter and apologize for his sister getting mixed up in it. But Jin shuts that down too, letting the old man know that he doesn't have to worry about it since Yona has already apologized. The chairman goes quiet after hearing that, and our boy starts to head for the door. That's when Grandpa finally asks the one question you and I have been waiting for. He flatly refuses, making it clear this isn't something an average teenager like him can handle. The old man just reminds our boy that an average teenager couldn't really take down a whole unit of kidnappers made of former Special Forces soldiers, either. Jin then points out that Yona already has an internal security team guarding her 24/7. The chairman agrees, but says that a security team can't be with her at school. And besides, she wouldn't be able to live normally with a team of guards following her everywhere. He explains that Seoku was in charge of her security. But the last incident proved he wasn't the right person for the job, so he's thinking of giving it to our boy. Jin starts walking away again, insisting he can't help. The old man is quiet for a moment, then says he wasn't just here to thank him for saving Yona. He also wanted to thank him for what he did 3 years ago. The moment our boy hears that, he freezes solid and snaps back toward the old man, and that right there tells you and me everything. The chairman keeps on thanking him, saying he's wanted to show his gratitude for a time, because if it wasn't for our boy, he never would have had that chance. Now stick with me, because Jin clearly remembers what the old man is talking about. But he plays it cool, brushing it off as just another job. The old man pushes back. It was a dangerous mission that nobody else dared to take. And because Jin pulled it off, he got to see his son one last time. In fact, his son talked about Jin all the time. He was worried and asked his father to find out why a kid like him became a mercenary. The old man tried to track him down, but hit nothing but dead ends. And now fate brings them face to face. Oh, and Yona, that's his granddaughter. Jin's mind flashes back instantly, remembering the man mentioning a daughter his age. Still, Jin shuts him down cold. He can't be Yona's bodyguard. But he adds that he won't just stand by if he sees her in trouble. The old man looks surprised for a second, then a smile breaks out. He says that's more than enough, but there's just one more thing. He wants to hear Jin's professional opinion on the company's security. When Jin asks what he means, the old man gets straight to the point. The SSW security team is old school, with a proud tradition. A little too proud if you ask him. They think Yona's kidnapping was no big deal. They're convinced they could have handled it, even without Jin's intervention. But as the company grows, so do the threats, and his security team isn't keeping up. The old man wants Jin's honest, unfiltered assessment of their skills. And of course, he'll be paid handsomely for the trouble. Jin just sighs. The whole thing feels like a massive headache. Back in the classroom, Yona greets him with a smile, but he blows right past her. He slumps into his seat, just as the teacher kicks off the day's lesson. Sitting there, Jin replays the old man's words in his head. It clicks. Yona's father must have passed away right after that mission. Okay, let's rewind and see exactly what happened back then. We see a younger Jin, surrounded by site workers during a meal break. As he's eating some ration bar, a voice calls out. A man asks how a kid like him ended up working as a mercenary. Yep, it's Yona's father. Once he gets a good look at Jin's face, he realizes just how young he truly is. Jin immediately pulls his mask up and tries to walk away. But the man offers him his own tray, loaded with actual good food. He tells Jin to eat something decent, especially at his age. Meanwhile, the other mercs are chatting about how rich their new client is. He's building roads, a school, and even a clinic for the local town. Jin just listens in silence, taking it all in while he eats. Later, while he's on guard duty, the man approaches him again with a chocolate bar. Jin ignores him. That night, he offers him food again. Jin turns his back. On a rainy day, the man brings him an umbrella and a coat. Jin refuses those too, an absolute wall of ice. Finally, the day comes for Jin to leave, and the man finds him one last time. He says he'll miss having him around and tells him to stop by if he's in the area. You and I can see what's happening here. He then tosses Jin a bag packed with snacks and supplies. Medical supplies inside, and stick with me because Jin finally asks why he's getting all this. The question throws the man off, completely surprised to hear Jin speak Korean. He mentions trying Jin's own language and even English before, but got nothing back. The man explains that he is doing this because he has a daughter about Jin's age. And Jin reminds him of her, so he just can't help but worry. Later, we're thrown into a rundown place torn apart by constant conflict. We see Jin with a fellow mercenary. His buddy informs him the town where he was stationed has been completely taken over by a resistance group. They were just waiting for the foreigners to finish construction before seizing all the new buildings. Most of the people at that site were killed. And watch this, Jin is snapped out of that dark memory by a ringing bell. Noticing Yona calling out to him, asking if he has a moment. A little later, they're in a lounge area where Suku is bowing deeply, offering a very late but personal apology. Jin just tells him there's no need. He totally understands the reason for his actions. Yona then says she was sure Jin would refuse and explains that Grandpa sent her to invite him. Jin agrees instantly, which leaves Yona completely baffled. It's the first time he's ever agreed without a single argument.